What's going on, everybody? DStyle here. This is another episode of Hispanics Causin Panic, episode 113 now. I haven't done the podcast in a couple of weeks. I've been busy, but we're back on this beautiful Tuesday, April 11th evening. So, how's it going? I'm being joined by Maureen Shea. How's it going, Maureen?
Good. Everything's good. I'm here in what usually is sunny Florida, but right now it's dreary and kind of cool. Cold
Yeah.
for us. Not, I know New York. You're in New York, right?
Well, I'm actually in El Paso, Texas.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. So yeah.
Right, so I'm in the Sun City, so it's all heat over here. I got the refrigerated air, and it's still hot. So,
oh yeah.
and I'm wearing black. How genius am I?
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, we're usually like that, but it's cold and windy, super windy here. So it's been interesting.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, look, I'm glad to have you on. I'm going to get to the reason I wanted to bring you on, but before we get there, I want you to introduce yourself to my audience, and I want people to get to know you a little bit. So I'm going to take you in a time machine, and we're going to go back a little bit, okay? When are you? Because I've interviewed several women fighters, and it's either one or the other. I have the one that grew up watching boxing, and then they fell in love with it, so they wanted to get in it, right? And they're the ones that started it as some type of workout, then they got serious with it, and it kind of grew from there. Where are you the one that just started doing it as a workout? Did you love boxing growing up, or where do you stand?
No. I actually wasn't raised with boxing. So actually I went to the gym to work out. I was actually in an abusive relationship. I've always been very physical and very athletic. I didn't realize I was an athlete until boxing, actually. I mean, I played sports in high school and grammar school, but I was never a team player. You know, I used to play. I just never stuck with anything. Nothing ever grabbed my interest. I mean, I attribute that to having ADHD. So nothing really grabbed me, you know. So until I went to the gym, I was actually at 17 years old. I was in an abusive relationship, and I went to the gym to better myself for him, thinking if I worked out and looked better. And when I went there, I went to the back, and there was a boxing gym, a boxing ring, and it was in that moment that I was like, oh, I want to try. And I really didn't know how to connect with with the guys there, because they were all, obviously they're all men, but I'm half Mexican, half Irish, and I speak fluent Spanish. So Willie Soto, who's the coach that was there and approached me, and I still speak to him today, he said, do you want to try? So I started speaking to him in Spanish, and he was like, oh, and right away, I always get that, because people are like, you speak Spanish. And I'm like, yeah.
¿Cuánto español sabes?
No, yo hablo perfectamente mi español.
Okay.
Pero gente cuando hablo, como hablo inglés y luego hablo español es muy diferente. My whole attitude changes, my tone changes, everything. So I was raised partially in Mexico and partially in the Bronx, New York. Man. So, but back to your question, that's how I got into boxing. I literally walked into, but growing up, I did see Tyson bite Holyfield's ear, by accident. I was at a friend's house, and they were watching the fights. And there was like they were going crazy in the living room. We were in the kitchen hanging out. We walked in there, and I was like, what is this? I was like, this is amazing. Because I had a lot of like misplaced rage as a kid, and just anger, and a lot of kids, emotional struggles. And
you're half Mexican and half Irish.
So yeah, that too. It's also kind of like genetic, right? But I also so I was definitely very spicy. But I looked at the TV, and I was like, man, I didn't connect with Tyson as much as like the boxing side of it. Like, I didn't really think about that. It was mostly the emotional part, that something would trigger him to want to do that. And I'm like, I've been triggered, So that being said, that was the first time I actually saw boxing. And then fast forward a couple of years later, I walked into the back, and I was like, oh, I know what this is. And then I was approached, and then, I did it. I never thought I'd compete. I didn't know enough about it. I didn't know amateurs wore headgear. I knew nothing. All I knew was like, I wanted to hit shit. You know what I mean? To be honest. And I just wanted to hit things. And I had all this, like this energy that I needed to get out. And yeah, so then I just started to do it. And then I was like, okay, what's next? Like, what's next? And they were like, okay, well, now you can compete. I'm like, okay. Like, I just kept going with it.
Okay. As you started getting more serious, or were you used to like eye rolls by male fighters, or
no,
anything like that?
I really didn't. I had a very supportive. I think they were more like intrigued by me in the gym, because they were like, so she shows up every day, and I outworked them because I was in the gym showing up early. I would stay late because I couldn't get in the ring to spar because the guys were sparring. So then Willie would get in there with me and hit. I've sparred with I sparred with a lot of other professionals, Elvia Mariki, who was a known fighter, Albanian from the Bronx. You know, I would get in there, they'd play around with me. Antonio Oliveros was another one who'd get in there and play around with me. I was literally weighing like 115 pounds. I was super tiny and thin. And so, but I just had this fight in me, you know, and I wanted to learn, and they laughed. So, and not that they laughed, I never felt like they were making fun of me. I think they were kind of like getting a kick out of the fact that this petite girl that was in here and feminine, because mind you, this is back in 1998, 1999. So, you know, I didn't look like a fighter, which is what boggles my mind today with what's going on, where it's great that they're embracing the femininity of these women. But when I first started, I literally got doors closed in my face because I didn't look like a fighter. I was too feminine. I was too get my nails done, my hair. I was too pretty to be a fighter. And that was like, I was shunned. And I never quit though. I never gave up trying to get to that next place, which was to compete. And I had to go through a couple coaches to get to that place. And it wasn't until I was 21 that I went to a gym. I actually drove around. Louis Rosado, he was a very good friend of mine, and he drove me around to different gyms trying to get me to, you know, trying to get coaches to want to train me, because Willie was very busy, and then everybody was busy, and I was the girl, and nobody had time for the girl. So Louis can attest to this, and he's still around in the Bronx today. We drove to 3 gyms. One closed the door on my face, literally. Morris Park Boxing was Jim Borzell. I love him to death. He ended up matchmaking my fights 5 years later. But he closed the door on my face and said,
"Came around."
Yeah. But and you know what? It's funny. And then Lou DiBella also was like, you know, was it really? And Bob Arum. I mean, I've had a lot of that's later on in time, but I've proven a lot of people wrong, and I really pushed down some doors, you know, figuratively and literally. But that door got closed on me. I went to another gym. I had already been training for like a year, and this guy was like, "Oh, well, you got to work." I was just sparring already. He's like, "Oh, you got to work the floor before you can get in the ring," and I was like, "I'm not staying here." So then we went to this last gym, and I was so discouraged and disheartened. I looked at Lewis. I was like, I don't even want to go in, because if one more person tells me like I'm too pretty to fight or box, I'm going to punch him in the face. So he went in, and it was New York Boxing Gym in Yonkers, New York. And he came out, and he had a card on him, a business card. He said, "Oh, the guy in there said to call this guy." I was like, all right. So I went home, and I'm like, this is my last shot. So I went, it was actually AOL. Going to date it now. I went on AOL to dial up, and I was like, oh, he has an AOL address. Maybe he's online. Sure enough, he was online. And all of a sudden, you know, his name came up. I sent him a message. I said, "Hi, my name is Maureen. I was giving your information by so-and-so. You know, I'd like to start boxing and training with you." And then, you know, we ended up getting into a conversation, and he actually knew me. He knew who I was because he had seen me in the other gym that I was training at, because he had gone there, because you know how trainers go to different gyms. And he was like, all right, when do you want to start? And I'll never forget this feeling that my heart just dropped into my stomach, because I couldn't believe that somebody was actually didn't question me, didn't say anything, just welcomed me. And then when I went to the gym, I remember walking in, and I remember what he was wearing, where he was standing, and what he was doing. And I could tell you everything. I walked in, I remember I knew I was home. And now we're going, I don't know how many years later, he's my manager. So that was Luigi Olchese. Yeah. I get the chills when I tell that story, because it's almost not real. You know, you don't hear that. He gave me his time, and he knew when he took me to the place he could take me to, he knew to bring me to Hector Roca in Gleason's gym. You know what I mean? Like he stayed guiding my career and still staying with me, even as an amateur. Even though Hector was training me, Luigi was always there. But he was a New Rochelle police officer. He was a cop. He had a full-time job, you know, and then, you know, but he always, I mean, I've been with him since I was 21, you know, and now I'm 42. So it's more than half my life, you know.
21 years later, yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, I want to talk about the door, because usually when people say they slammed the door in my face, they're not saying literally, like they mean it like.
He closed the door. He literally.
So how far were you from the door? This looks like they never make a movie about you.
The door was cracked open. Let's just say I wasn't even able to get my foot in the gym. He literally looked me up and down, because
it froze there. Can you hear me?
Huh? Oh, you froze. You there?
Yeah, I don't know if you froze or I froze. One of us froze.
Oh, okay. No, he literally, I couldn't get my foot in the door. He literally looked at me, and he looked me up and down and said, "Yeah, you don't look like a fighter. I don't think we can help you here." I said, "Well, I just want to come in." He's like, "Yeah, I don't think we can help you." And I was like, and then it was like,
yeah, they don't make a movie about you.
He remembers.
Like that's got to be a scene in a movie, like where it literally closes on your door. Okay. Like how far was your nose from the door?
No, it was far enough. It was far enough.
Okay.
Otherwise, I probably would have bashed it down. I had that
Yeah.
in me, even though I didn't know how to fight yet.
Man, when did you know that this is what you want to do? Like, it wasn't just something you're doing at the moment, but it's just going to be a career for you, like being a fighter. When did that realization hit you?
I mean, it never was really I never looked at it as a career for me. I
Okay.
went to college, I got my degree, I worked. I think for me, I was just so dedicated, and I had to figure out what my whys were. Like, why did I start? In the beginning, it was because I had the doors closed on my face, so I kept doing it because I don't like to be told no. Then when my parents found out that I was boxing, my father said, in this house, you have to work and go to school. You can't do all three. And I had to prove him wrong. Then I worked on $1 Million Baby. I was Hilary Swank's primary sparring partner for the movie, and I was an amateur. So now I'm a sparring partner. Like, nobody thought I could fight. They thought I got all this fame because I was a sparring partner. So now I feel like I have to prove myself to those people, and then I
Did they really think that because of a movie?
I did get like thrust into a spotlight, and I did, I mean, I had some people that were just didn't think they didn't know. But this was around a time that women's boxing, again, it wasn't where it is now. It was nowhere near where it is now.
Yeah,
it was like just to get on cards. Mind you, I'm self-promoted. And I don't think there's a lot of facts that I was talking on Twitter because I don't think people understood. I had 12 amateur fights. So back then I fought my second fight. I went to nationals and fought a national champion my second amateur fight. I didn't have the opportunities that these women have today, which is why I explained that a lot of these women today, they were like 6 to 12 years old when I would turn pro. So like, people need to understand the timeline here. I'm 42, but I'm still in my prime. I'm still competing at the highest level, and I'm still capable, able, and I have all this experience. So they gotta, like, so what, we just get pushed aside because we're older and we have all this experience and this time in the game. And that's why, there's a lot to go into, because that's why the sanctioning bodies are created, to protect us, as far as the rankings. And these promoters can't just come in and put their girls on, which is what's happening with Matchroom. And it's, and again, I said some things, and I support these women. I respect anybody that gets into that ring. I'm not mad at anybody, but what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. And it's not right. And this has been going on for a long time. And I know that I had a banter back and forth with a person on Twitter from the UK that was like, well, it's about time these females in the US are speaking up. And I think a lot of them aren't speaking up. I don't know, but I can only imagine maybe they don't want to be like, they're still waiting for their opportunity. Like, I feel personally,
maybe they don't want to burn bridges, right?
But I don't feel like I'm burning a bridge. I'm just speaking the truth. See, I'm not kissing anybody's ass. I'm sorry. I've been doing this for way too long. I got a job. I got a great job. I make more money outside the ring than I make in it. People are like, oh, why are you doing this? Oh, you don't need the opportunity because you have a job. No, but I created a life for myself so I could continue boxing. And I've moved, around the country. I moved from New York to New Jersey. From Jersey, I was in Mexico. Then from Mexico to California. I was in California for 8 years. I fought on the undercard of Shane Mosley. I was his co-feature. It had been a decade since a female co-featured on a pay-per-view card, and that was me with Mayorga Mosley too. So it's like, I've done so many. My resume is pretty crazy, and I don't know, like, whether it's, oh, I'm not promoted. Okay, so then I shouldn't fight. So I should go sign with a promoter, give him 30% of my purse, or I don't fight. Like, isn't that kind of like illegal? Like,
yeah, I mean, the truth is, like, I've been watching boxing practically my whole life, right? Mm-hmm. And I didn't, and I was telling you before we went live, I haven't really followed women's boxing until like the last 3 years or so, like really following it, and really caring about it, to be honest with you, because there was no spotlight on women's boxing. There just wasn't.
No opportunities. And consistent spotlight. For you to grow with a fighter, you're growing. Like, look at Ryan Garcia, look at Gervonta Davis. You've grown with them, so you've seen their careers. Females, that didn't happen. It didn't even happen for Christy Martin or Layla Ali.
Yeah, I think Christy Martin was just like I watched her because she was on these big Don King pay-per-view undercards, right? I mean, that's why I got to watch her. Yeah, Layla Ali in her prime was on these little pay-per-views. They weren't putting her on HBO or Showtime, and she probably should have been, to be honest with you. Holly Holm like ended up leaving boxing and went to UFC because there just wasn't any attention for her in boxing. It is what it is, right? But I feel like it is. There's a lot of positives when it comes to women's boxing. There is, but it doesn't mean that it's without problems, and it doesn't mean that there's nothing that needs to be fixed. One thing I'm noticing right now, and I want your thoughts on this. I think because a lot, like if you look at the very top, when you look at Katie Taylor, Clarissa Shields, when you look at the very top, Bumgarner, Mayer, like yes, those women are fighting the top, the best right at the moment. But I think there's a perception that that's happening across the board in women's boxing, and it just isn't. Like there is fights being made, but I think there are women that are skipping the line.
Thank you. It's a facade. It's a complete facade. And you're 100% right. That's exactly, and thank you for recognizing that, because that's exactly what's happening. That's exactly what's happening. Yeah. I mean, yeah. And then it just, the argument that I'm getting, it's like, oh, you didn't fight the opposition. I'm like, what did you want me to fight? Like, you realize that these girls, I didn't have the amateur experience. I had to learn on the job. And during that time, it wasn't like, so what, you're going to take a girl at 12 amateur fights to go fight a world champion? No. Okay. These girls though, they're coming in, they need to work there. They need to work to get to that place. I haven't lost a fight in over a decade. How does what's her name? Sky, when, with Matchroom, how does she not Sky, Shanika Johnson come off a loss, fight for an IBF world title against another girl who comes off a loss? Like
I know the answer. She had the right connections and the right people made a fight happen. You know what I mean? And they just called it a world title fight. Now, I don't know. I just don't think she should be a world champion. Like, she beat somebody for a vacant belt.
But it's the same thing with Ebony Bridges. She didn't earn the title. And again, it's nothing personal to these girls, but you didn't earn it. And she commented on my tweet, and I wrote back, but you shouldn't speak because you were ranked 8th or 9th. And you fought a girl, Shannon Courtney, who was ranked 8th. You weren't even top 5. When they fought.
Wasn't ranked, no.
No. So come on. But nobody's paying attention, and that's why I'm speaking up. It's not.
This is what's happening, though. What's happening is women are getting skipped, right? And then other women are getting opportunities, and because they're with the right promoter, in most cases, Matchroom, right?
In the case,
and when the fighters that got skipped say something, they're being called haters. They're being called, Listen, I don't know. I just think, and then all of a sudden, the ones that got skipped need to prove something. All of a sudden, but
I get it, and I'm here. Listen, I'm 42 years old. I don't got time for this nonsense. I'm here speaking up, not just for myself, but for other women, the ones that maybe don't have the voice and can't speak from the seat that I'm in, because I earned this seat. I'm 30-2 with 13 knockouts. I fought for 4 world titles. I'm up here and I'm out here and I'm speaking, and I have the experience, and it's happening to me. So I'm speaking from a seat that not many of these women and these young ones that think that, oh, this is great. This is wonderful to see younger girls getting into the sport. But I'm sad to say, if I don't say something, this is going to happen to them. So I'm not afraid to me. I feel like I have nothing to lose. If they want to call me, I really don't care. I really couldn't care less what people think of me. That's the thing. I know who I am, and I know what I represent and what I stand for. And those that know me know that. And my reputation is very consistent. My electronic footprint is extremely consistent with everything that I've done. So
I just think there's a hierarchy that should be followed in boxing, and it's there for a reason.
It's called the rankings.
Yeah, and I think, let me give you an example. So Tara Brown, all right? Nobody wants to fight her right now. It's just the truth, right? For whatever reason, nobody wants to fight her, right? I think I know the reason, but let's just leave it open-ended. They put Sky Nicholson in a fight for a WBC silver.
Yeah.
Right? And I don't want to, I don't like talking bad about fighters, but the girl she fought just wasn't that good.
Oh, terrible. And she looked terrible too. I'm not talking, listen, I'll say it. She looked terrible too. I'm going to say when somebody looks good and they don't look good.
Yeah, that shouldn't have been for what's basic WBC belt in the division. It's kind of embarrassing, right? In my opinion, that they had the belt for that.
But it's also unfortunate that that's what's getting, and it's on TV, it's televised, excuse me, and that's what people think women's boxing is. Like, that's a championship. You know, I watched a fight the other night. These commentators like, oh, this was championship level fighting. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, clearly you've never seen a championship level women's fight, because that clearly was not. You know, but this is what's being sold, whether it's social media and all this nonsense, or, you know, whatever their marketing stuff is, whatever their style is on, you know, selling themselves sexually, which, you know, it infuriates me, because I feel like it sets us back so many years that we can't even be, you know, acknowledged and admired for our talent and our skill. And I understand, you know, if you want to, you know, being a certain way, but like, everything's naked now. And these young girls think that that's the only way they're going to get ahead, because these girls are getting ahead selling sex. And I'm like, I'm going to stand up for the ones that don't. I mean, listen, could I do it? Sure. I got a great body. I know what I look like. And I'm sure plenty of people would watch it. But guess what? That's not me. I'm not going to sell myself out and do something that's not me to get ahead. I'm just not going to do that. I'll do it the hard way. I'll sit here and I'll just keep.
Well, you've done it the hard way. You are where you are. But I want to really touch on this, right? But before I ask you another question, to see Sky Nicholson surpass Tierra Brown in the rankings,
it's a joke.
It makes no sense to me. And I feel like if anyone who's paying attention, you could see that Matchroom is recycling the same opponents for the same girls that they're moving up. It's very similar to like how wrestling has like their jobbers, right, to make their star wrestlers look good, and that's what they're doing. And if you look at that, that's Sky is fighting somebody that's lost like a few weeks ago.
Yeah, Laura Lecca, you know, that's the thing though. I know Laura, and Laura's a very good fighter. She's a very good fighter. I don't know what shape she's coming in. I know she's been, you know, she's got the 2 losses, but if Laura was in her better time, she could beat Sky easy. Laura can fight, but she's been fighting in the UK. Didn't she take her last fight in the UK? Like, it's like, because they're giving them money. Listen, they offered me to fight at 130 pounds. Why? Why? I mean, listen, I could beat the girl, but why? Why should I fight 130 pounds? What? That's the thing. I fight on my terms. And then they're trying to tell me, oh, well, if you don't fight on your terms, then if you don't fight under what we tell you, then you're not going to fight. All right. Well, then if that's the case, then what am I supposed, like, how is that right? You know, I'm a 122 pounder. I've been ranked at 122 and 118. That's where I want to fight. That's where we choose to fight. It's not because I can't fight at 126, but why? Like, it took me so long, and I fought bigger girls my whole career just to get experience, to kind of fast track my experience, you know, for me to actually get, I mean, if you look at my fight when I fought Kina Marpartida, which I was, you know, I fought on Top Ranks card, on the Miguel Cotto card. I was not a 130 pounder, but I was up, and I was ranked there. They put me there, and I was like, okay, well, that's what I got to do. It's what I got to do. Either way, I felt I was the better fighter. Unfortunately, I got injured in that fight, but you know, either way, that was a big weight class for me. And believe it or not, as I got older, I started to understand where I fit, because my body started to kind of like adjust, but it was also experience. I didn't have hundreds of amateur fights. Again, 12 amateur fights. And then I turned pro.
So what happened? Because from my understanding, you were set to fight Alice Scottney, right, for an interim belt.
So the IBF ordered the fight for me to fight Ellie Scottney, because Shanika Johnson was out medically until at least June, which was said. So the IBF ordered the fight instead of just sitting there and doing nothing. We said, okay, well, we're prepared, so let's go. And then Matchroom sent me a contract on February 10th or the 18th or something like that. Maybe I don't remember. It was around the 10th or the 18th. They sent me a contract. I signed the contract. We sent it back. And then, you know, we were getting ourselves prepared. And then this was for April 29th in Sheffield, England. Everything was set. Then the card fell through. And then they were looking for another card. And then all of a sudden, Shanika Johnson's available. I'm like, oh, isn't that convenient? That's very convenient. So now Shanika Johnson's available. And then they order that fight. This is the thing. I get it. I get exactly what Eddie Hearn is doing. Why should he fight me when he's got the champion available to fight the number 1 girl? Okay, I'm ranked number 2. But then offer me the winner. Or if your girl or Lou DiBella or her say, hey, if this one wins, okay, then you got to fight me. But to have me sit there and have the IBF order it, there should be an immediate fight. I shouldn't have to wait 9 months or however long it is that they don't have to defend for. They should have to defend to me right away because that's what's right. Because I was ordered to fight for the interim.
Yeah.
So what's going to happen? Now they get pulled back even more because Chantel Cameron doesn't want Ellie on the card. And I mean, you know, and then that whole thing happens. So now it's like, okay, so listen, I came off a 2.5-year layoff and I fought a girl like that was active. She was active. She was coming up and down weight class. She was fighting champions. And I came back and I dominated the fight unanimously, beat her in 8 rounds after a 2.5-year layoff. So, and I got questions. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna, before I lose this. So Alice Cotney, obviously, like she tweeted out, she was devastated that the fight got canceled, and you did respond. You made a public response.
I did,
and some might say you were a little harsh to her. Like, what would you say to anybody saying you were kind of harsh?
I say
at her misfortune, if you want to call it that.
You know what? Like I was.
Like it was kind of like a misfortune in her part, like that she's not going to be able to fight for the belt for something out of her control, basically.
Okay. I've had things happen out of my control, but guess what? That's life. That happens in boxing. I've been through it. But she has 6 fights. 6 fights. If I could tell you what happened to me when I had 6 fights, when I was coming in, it happens. It's part of it. But then again, it's unfortunate because imagine being misled. It was misleading. To think you were fighting for a title and then you just get told, no, you're not. That happened to me too. Listen, I'm sorry, but I'm not with this whole PC culture, this whole sensitivity nonsense. I really can't. I'm not going to sit there. I just like people are sensitive. Oh, you're mean. Oh, that's not nice. And I'm like, okay, well, that is what it is. I mean, what do you want me to say? You know what I mean? Like I listen, I think that give her some time. I don't know how she's ranked, number 1 with 6 fights. I think, put some time in the game, develop yourself a little bit. Not a bad fighter, but she definitely needs more development for a professional. She fights very amateur, in and out, in and out. She's getting better. Don't get me wrong. I watched her fights, but there's more to it than that. But now you're going to fight a Shanika Johnson, who again, they're both equal level, but they're not championship level, but they're here. Championship level has experience and has been through stuff and has developed a style. These are just different. It's just different. It's like you said, with Sky fighting the other girl who was like looked like an inexperienced amateur, But again, listen, I made a comment. My comment was basically just like me saying like, yeah, I know what you're feeling because that happened to me and that's happened to me. So I get it. But toughen up, Buttercup. Toughen up, Buttercup. I mean, I said it. What do you want me to say? Okay. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I felt like saying. So I said it. What am I going to say? Oh, girl, like, I don't know what to say. But that's what happens when you skip lines and when you get ahead. Things happen, Yeah,
I mean, aside from that, what do you think about now? Granted, I'll admit I don't know much about the situation. I just know what happened. But what do you make of that? Like a fighter requesting another fighter shouldn't fight on the card.
From what was stated, it sounded pretty serious for Chantel Cameron, what she went through, and she must have gone through something pretty bad for even Eddie Hearn to be like, I get it. But I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to say she's wrong. I'm not going to say she's right. I know that, I mean, I can only speak for myself. I've been in some pretty messed up situations and I still went out there and fought because, it doesn't matter who's around me, but I'm a different breed because I come from a different generation. You got to understand, it's a different generation. I'm a different generation. I literally there's things that, I didn't sign any NDAs, but man, sexual assault, sexual harassment, people like throwing things, like people being, but you know what? I still went out there and fought. I was fighting in Mexico and there was people smoking around the ring. There's situations that I've been in boxing. Yeah. You fight Tijuana.
Brought the smokers back, huh?
Huh?
They brought the smokers back.
I was fighting in Mexico because I was trying to stay busy and fight. These girls were tough. These girls that I fought in Mexico, they were very tough. I even had one change their name. Listen, they say pro debut. Yeah, a girl changed her name after she lost to me because she lost to me. They had her as a pro debuter. This girl's not a pro debuter. It's out there. I'd have to send you the link.
Wow, that's crazy.
Listen, I fought a girl who was 170 pounds.
So I'm glad you said you're not into this whole PC culture thing, right? So I want to ask you this.
Yeah.
Very left field, but
yeah.
The other day I saw this. It was an MMA fight, and there was this Fallon Fox. I don't know if you've seen it.
Yeah.
It's a
I know
transgender.
what it is.
Yeah, and like just like beat up this girl, cracked her open, does the post fight, sounds like Rocky Balboa, you know, like yeah, I just won. You know, I'm just whoa, what's going on here? It looked unfair, felt unfair.
I'm not into transgender fighting women. Like I'm really not into it. Men or women, I'm not into any of it. I think it's
Do you
completely
think
unfair.
more women athletes need to speak up? Because it seems like that's who it's affecting.
I mean, it's I don't know if it's happening in women's boxing. You know, I don't know. I know
It's happened.
There's one that I believe there's a female that is now a man that fought.
Yeah, there's that, which is like no one's worried about that because everyone knows.
So,
I mean,
yeah.
it is what it is. But
Yeah.
Susie Q fought someone. Ramadan fought someone that was a man before. So.
Oh really? Oh, I didn't know that. I did not know that.
Yeah. So the WBC.
That's absurd. It's absurd and ridiculous. Like I mean, that's my feelings. Like no, I don't. I'm not okay with that. You know, I think that, and I think. I mean, but I know the WBC is trying to create a transgender league, whatever, you know, like whatever. I don't really care. I mean, that's not right. You know what I mean?
Can we sort women's boxing out first, and then maybe we can talk about it at least?
I know, right?
Right? Like what's going on here?
Add on more stuff to figure out. Yeah.
Now, look, you've been in the game for a while. How do you take the whole? Because it's really the WBC that's the one that really insisting on the 2 minutes, right? 2 minutes, not 3 minutes.
I think I'm not against the 2 minute rounds. It's not because we can't fight 3 minute rounds, but we fight more. We can fight more fights in a year, and we're not. And I mean, they're going to pay us for the 3 minute rounds. Are they going to pay us like the men? So now you're putting your body out there. I mean, listen, a female can fight 4 world title fights in a year. A man can't do that. You know what I mean? There's less wear and tear and more opportunity for us to make more money by staying active.
Staying active.
I've always been an advocate for 2 minute rounds. It's not because listen, I don't care to be like a man. I don't care to be like the men. I'm a woman and I fight different. It's a different style. It's a different finesse. It's just different. You know, and then people ask me, "Oh, you want to fight a man?" No, I don't. There should be a competition. There should be a support. It's different.
Well, what about the argument? Because I'll be honest, I kind of fall in line with this. So, because I'm a firm believer that if you want to raise the pay scale, you kind of have to do what the men do. You gotta have to do the 3 minutes, maybe 12 rounds, and do it at the same level as the men.
What about the women and the men in tennis? I mean, the women are still making the money. When Virginia Slims came in, and
they do like. I'm not that familiar with tennis, but they do like less.
Sets. It's different. It's different. So it's like, you know, I think that's an easy way to look at it. But I think that there's definitely marketability. And I mean, and there's definitely, I don't think it has to be exactly what the men do.
Do you think at the very least, if 2 women want to do 3 minutes, it should be allowed?
They did. Marlena Esparza and Sinisa Estrada.
Sinisa, yes.
Yeah, true. That's fine. Yeah, if that's what they want to do. Okay, great. I'm sure they did not get paid what they deserved for that fight because both of them got pretty messed up. And neither one of them got paid what they deserved.
Especially Marlene.
They're tearing their body and they think that's not going to catch up with them in a couple of years. But I get it.
Okay. Well, MMA, they do 5 minutes, 5 minute rounds, just like the men do.
Different sport. Different. They're not getting hit in the head as much as we are. Very different.
More grappling stuff.
As much as we are. Absolutely not. You have to remember that the gloves were made, just like bare knuckle, the gloves were put on the fighter to protect the hands of the fighter, not the head of the opponent. Very different. Right. You know, concussions, your repeated blows to the head, you know, brain damage. Very different.
Very different. Okay. All right.
And I think the WBC looks at it more that I believe their statement is that the women have a higher rate of concussion.
Okay.
Than men. So that's their argument. Medically speaking, they're trying to protect us.
Look, there's no doubt that there's this is going to continue because different women feel different about it, right?
Of course, but I like to get them. I mean, as long as they're educated and what the background is and what the reasoning is, you know, I get it though. But I get it because the women want to be that. I just don't think it needs to be like, oh, we have to be like the men. I think that we need to just, you know, grow in this sport and let it grow the way it's growing, but not the way it was happening with And listen, Matchroom's doing great things for the women, but they're not doing it the right way.
Well, you know what it is, though. You want me to tell you honestly what I think it is.
Yeah.
I don't think Matchroom. I'm going to use the word protects their women any more than they do their male fighters, for example, right? But here's the difference: they have competition with the man, right? Like if a fighter's not getting what they want, like they don't need to depend on Eddie Hearn. Like they could go to Top Rank, they could go to Golden Boy, they could go to PBC. They have different options. Where the women, PBC doesn't put on women fights. Top Rank promotes what, 2 women fighters? That's it. And then
I fought for Top Rank, I fought for Golden Boy, I fought for Lou DiBella, I fought for Star Boxing, I fought for all those guys. But no signing.
But they don't have a stable, right? Like Matchroom does. Like they don't have that stable of fighters, and I think that's what it is. Eddie Hearn's going to do what benefits his stable. That he does it for the men as well, right? But there's no competition like to that degree anyway. Boxers stepped up a little bit.
Right, that it's UK fighters. I mean, listen. I fight Ellie Scottney, then I fight when I had the contract for Ellie Scottney, they put options. So Matchroom would have had options on me.
Can you disclose what the options were?
I'd rather not, just in case they don't. But I had options. I had multiple fight options with them. Man. Okay, so they offered that. They wanted that on the contract. So if I beat Ellie Scottney, they would have had options. Okay. And I would have loved
yes.
Huh?
And you had said yes to those options?
Of course, I signed the contract and sent it back. But they conveniently never sent it in. And then all of a sudden, the fight fell through on the 29th. They could have taken my contract and sent it right in. Why didn't they send it in? They had ample time. By the time we found out that the fight got canceled on the 29th, I had already had my contract turned in for a while, for a bit. Man. And then why didn't they send it in? Because they never had intent. It wasn't in good faith. It wasn't in good faith that they did that. They were trying to figure out what they could. They were not happy that the IBF ordered that fight.
Do you think they just had it there, like just in case? Okay, if Sharnika ain't available, then fuck it, we're going to have to fight.
Unavailable. It was already stated after her fight with Susie that she was unavailable. She was medically out.
Well, okay. Well, let me ask this then: do you think the options were put in place? They were hoping that you said no.
They were great options. I would have said no. They weren't bad. We went back and negotiated, but they weren't bad options. So why would I say no?
Makes sense.
You know,
makes sense.
I mean.
You talked earlier about the women, the U.S. fighters speaking up, because I see a lot of them, and I feel bad because I see them like post on Twitter. I need an opponent. Like I saw this one woman fighter, I forget her name, but she had posted a promoter said yes, they're going to put me on a fight card, but I have to find my own opponent. I'm like, wait, what? You have to find your opponent? That's crazy.
They probably offered her a slot. And then there's a slot fee, and then but who's her manager? You know, if you're doing that to get on the fights, I mean, it's tough. It's tough. There's no how are these women supposed to get the experience and get the fights, and then they want them coming in as opponents or fighting at higher weight classes? You know, I mean, it's and that's what Matchroom does. They take smaller girls and bring them up to fight. So
what do the American fighters have to do? Because there's no major promoter that has a stable of American fighters.
Well, we could use some backing with promotion. I mean, that would be nice, you know, to give some females the opportunity. I mean, Jake Paul's getting awards from the WBC for his work in women's boxing. He's got 2 female fighters. Maybe he could pick up some more female fighters.
And look, former world champ. I don't want to put him on the spot, right? But I've had Nate Campbell on my show before.
Oh, Nate! Listen, Nate knows me. I had a podcast with Nate called
Nate. Well, I don't know if you like what he said, but Nate.
Oh no, we go back and forth all the time.
He said, this is what he said. And I remember I told him, Nate, wouldn't you rather see a good women's fight on the undercard than like some of the shady undercards we get, like with the men sometimes? Like you're like, why are they putting this fight on? Wouldn't you rather see 2 high profile women? And he said, I'd rather see 2 shitty men because they can knock each other out than 2 women fight any day, is what he said. And I think that mentality is kind of like the reason promoters.
And Nate knows he's a misogynist because Nate also told me that he would never hire me because he could never work with a woman.
He said that like that.
That's Nate, but that's the thing though. That's who he is, and that's okay. Like I love him to death. He's like a brother. I saw him like a couple months ago at some fights in West Palm, and I laugh. And Chevelle Hallback's like his best friend, so it's like.
But not that long ago, like Bob Arum, like when they put on Valdez Shakur the same day as Katie Taylor Serrano, they asked him about it. He was very dismissive. It was just very like, it's a women's boxing fight. I mean, no one's gonna like not watch this great fight.
That's
you know,
the
like
problem that we're getting that. Yeah, that's the thing. They're like stepping on us. They're stepping on us. Listen, they're stepping on us, and then what's happening within us is that it's not the best fighting the best. And there's women getting pushed to the side and just completely skipped. So it's a big mess. I mean, it's not, I mean, can it be resolved? Sure. Listen, like I said, I got nothing to lose. I'm going to speak out, but listen, what's my purpose now? Why am I, and I pray about this. God is my higher power. And Jeremiah 29:11 is my life verse. And I said, God has a plan for my life. And I know that I was brought into this sport for a reason, because it saved my life in many ways. And, I think now, what is my purpose in all of this? And so if it's to speak out and say what I'm saying, then I'm going to say it. I mean, I just can't sit back and not, because when I went on Twitter, man, I felt like I vomited. It felt great. I really felt like it just got it all out. And, with your comment about what's going on, like, with what Bob Arum said, what's going on, people aren't even being educated on it, because there's a lot of skill that goes into it with women, and it's a different kind of fight, and they're talking about there's a lot of skill that goes in, and a lot of finesse. I mean, it's great to watch when you see two women, if you can look at them as athletes. People used to say that, like, oh, how do you feel when they say you fight like a girl? I said, I fight like an athlete. That's always been in my mind. I never looked at myself any different. I'm out here doing a sport, working just as hard as them, but I'm a woman and I'm different. It's not that I'm weaker, right. I'm stronger. I'm not as good. I'm as good, whatever. I'm different. And I think we're all about everybody celebrating being different. I mean, we're just own who you are and celebrate that, and just keep working. I have guys that have come up to me that, like, man, they copy my style, but I've developed a style over 40 fights. I have a style. And I said, find me another girl. Actually, I just found a girl on Instagram. She's got a nice little style. She's young. I think she's got like 5 fights. She's from, I don't know where she's from. I think she's from Ireland. But I'm like, man, because these girls don't move their heads. There's no defense. I'm a defensive fighter. I slip, I roll, I bounce off the ropes, I play on the ropes, I move, and I learned that from Arturo Gatti. I learned that watching the men. I studied the men coming up, because I didn't have the access to females to watch and to study. So my style, you can see a little bit of these different male fighters in my style. But it's mine. It's my own.
Can you give me your Mount Rushmore of women fighters in history? Like, who are the 4 for you? It could be any. It doesn't have to be the best. It could just be your favorite, your 4 favorite women fighters.
My 4 favorite? Okay. I'll say Christy Martin, who I'm happy to call today, that I can call a friend, who was a big influence. I have to say Lucia Riker. They did a documentary on her called Shadow Boxers that I watched, and it very much helped it. I was going to do what I was doing anyway, but it definitely was awesome to see and to just connect with the female in this sport. Mm-hmm. Alicia Ashley. A lot of people don't know who she is, but she was one of my first sparring partners. And she was in the Guinness Book of World Records for being the oldest active female world champion. Wow. And she's, she beat out Bernard Hopkins, and she never got the recognition she deserved, but she definitely was a pioneer in the sport. And I'm lucky to say, not just a friend, but I actually got to share the ring with her and train. And I had a promotional company, and I got to actually promote one of her fights. I got how many more?
One more.
It's so tough because I look at, I can say Layla Ali, I can say Ann Wolf, I can say these women. It was just so, Layla Ali, but why? Jackie Frazier, but why? See, for me, Jackie Frazier, being a lawyer, being a mother, and getting in there and not having any amateur fights, the same thing with Layla. You know what I mean? Like, why? Why would I put them up there? To me, it's more about what they did outside the ring to get to where they are than what they just accomplished inside the ring. Sure. Like I said, like with Christy Martin, it was more of what she went through and how she persevered, because she, it was during a time where she was, before me, and going through what she went through. I mean, then there's Laura Serrano, also, from Mexico, you know what I mean? There's there's so many women that a lot of people don't know that have been
Jackie Nava.
Yeah, of course. Jackie and Jackie's husband worked my corner when I fought in Mexico. Mario.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I have tons of, connections out with a lot. And it's interesting. It's just, there's so much respect. There's just really so much respect. I think there's like a gap between the women that came around my time. I mean, including Layla McCarter is another one, she's still in it. She's still trying and she's getting passed over as well. But there's these women that came during like there's me, and then there's the women that came before me, then there's my generation, and there's like this gap. And it was almost like everybody just forgot because of the Olympics. I think the Olympics is what drew eyes on women's boxing. And then it was like the promoter just came in and said, okay, whoever was in the Olympics and got all that, we're just going to take them now because they already have the platform. So they didn't really create the platform. Do you know what I'm saying? And They kind of like just pushed us to the side. Except for Sinisa Estrada. Sinisa Estrada wasn't, I know that she wasn't part of the Olympic team and things like that. But, I give her a lot of credit. I like her style. I know Sinisa, when I lived out in California and stuff. But it's just interesting. It's just interesting that there's this huge gap between, and
do you think there's do you think the girls right now, the ones that are 3-0, under 10 fights, let's just say that, right? Do you think they appreciate like everything that women in the past had to go through to like pave those roads? Like, do you think they understand? Do they have any understanding? And how much blame do you put on them? Because maybe they don't have that awareness.
It's not blame. It's just, I mean, they didn't know. They don't know. They're not. I mean, I know that I see Katie Taylor is giving homage to Deidre, and she's going to be at her fight ringside. Christy Martin was at the fight ringside when they fought in the Garden. I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't know how much connection there is. I feel like women of my era have more connection to the Christy Martins because we all struggle together. I don't think these women really understand. I'm not saying they didn't struggle because their struggles are different. But they have no idea what it was like, but that's just the evolution of the sport. These young girls coming up now, which I love watching these little girls, they're like, 10, 11, 12, 13 years old, and I'm seeing it. I love it, but they're not going to know. You know what I mean? That's just part of it. I would hope that but I think there's more of a connection there because of the Olympics. They're going to have the opportunity to have all these amateur fights where women like myself didn't. We didn't have, some girls go pro without even fighting amateur. Like I said, Jackie Frazier and Layla Ali. I don't even know if Christy Martin had amateur fights. It's like, that's just the evolution of the sport, but there's always supposed to be respect. But I just don't, I think that the world right now is just too fast and they're just more concerned about themselves and not anybody else. And there's maybe some selfishness there. And I know people say like, why are you doing this? Like, again, I'm not just speaking on behalf of myself. I'm speaking on behalf of other women, because if somebody doesn't say something, and I don't care if anybody celebrates me or not, like I said in another podcast I did, and I've repeated this over and over again. You know what my biggest achievement is in boxing? The fact that I don't need to be announced when I walk in a room. I don't care. I really don't. Even at my job, my boss, he still acknowledges me and lets people know that I'm a 2-term world champion and I'm still fighting. But I'm his executive assistant. I help run the businesses, and I love it. But I know who I am and I know what I've done, and I'm okay with that. These girls that are out there saying they earned these spots, I mean, they're sadly mistaken. They didn't earn the spots.
I think it's perspective, right? Because I think, like, I remember like way back when I was watching this reality show with Paris Hilton, and she was so stressed out about this stupid. I was so annoyed by it, I stopped watching the show, right? and I think maybe not to that degree, but I think people just know the struggle that they're presented, but they can't empathize with bigger struggles because they don't know about them, right?
See, but that's humility and that's compassion. And I empathize. I can empathize. I can put myself in that position and be like, man, like, I mean, that's just me though. I think about those women, like especially Christy Martin and what she had to go through. And what these women had to go through to get there. I mean, I can relate to a degree, and Christy and I have talked about even the abuse, You know, I was punched in my face, 8 stitches above my eyebrow, almost strangled to death, left for dead outside of a car. So I can, when she told her story, yeah, people don't know, but I've talked about it. I'm very open. I've done a lot of work with domestic violence victims, and I do motivational speaking, and I go out there and I speak, especially with the youth. I've done a ton of things, but it wasn't on Instagram. You know what I mean? So it's like, I mean, I'm not this person. You know what I'm saying? Like, you put a camera on me, I'm all day. I had my own talk show. I have my own TV show in New York it was called Shea's Corner. You know, so it's like I'm used to the camera here. But like I'm more about being in the moment than capturing every moment so I could share it with everybody. Right. You know? And I do. I mean, you know, one of our guys today got me singing in the car. and people get to see a little bit of my personality. But I think it's moments like this and conversations like this that people say, oh, they like me. Hey, I'm not for everybody. You know what I mean? Like, I'm an acquired taste. You know, I know that I'm not for everybody, and that's okay too. You know, but you're going to respect me. You have to respect me because of what I've done and what I continue to do.
So the quote tweet to Alice Cotney, like the Buttercup tweet, was that tough love? Was that what that was?
It's like, okay, this is part of it. This is part of the journey. This is part of it. And you're in a very, 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 you're very fortunate to be in the position you're in, honey, because it's very rare that happens. And you're
it like reminds me of like when I had my first breakup and I thought the world was over.
Of course.
And then my older brother's like laughing and I'm like, what are you laughing about? Like, he's like, oh, you'll be fine. Like it just reminded me of that.
24 years old. She's 24 years old with 6 fights. Come on. You know what I mean? But she shouldn't be fighting for a world title at 24 years old with 6 fights. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, come on. You know, and you're fighting a girl who shouldn't even be a world champion. Like, you can't make this stuff up. It's crazy. You know, but okay, she's getting it. But, you know, I mean, my thing is face me. But, you know.
Would you have been available?
I was available. Of course I would have been available.
No, but let's say that. I
said it to Lou DiBella. I said it to Lou DiBella. I told Shanique on her Instagram. I said, tell your promoter to call me. I said, hey, Lou, you know my number. Lou
I guess what I'm asking is, were you like, you would have done it, like you were ready to do it?
Of course. I stay ready. But it's my lifestyle. It's how I live.
Okay.
I mean, on May 20th, absolutely. But Eddie wasn't going to put me in because he wasn't going to put me in for that. I put it out there, but it's like, come on, man. And I'm like, oh, somebody's saying, oh, get the payday, get this, get that. I'm like, are you forgetting it's what's right? Like, if the number 1 isn't available, you fight the number 2. Hello, it's numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
You gotta follow the pecking order a little bit.
I mean, I don't know, you know. But listen, now they're gonna fight. Who knows when? But Eddie had to go on there and say her fight's not canceled. It's gonna be rescheduled for another date. And I'm like, okay. So I'm just gonna sit here and be like, all right. I mean, listen, I haven't fought in a year. I'm good to go. You know, listen, my career, if you look at my record, I have long layoffs. I mean, I had an injury at one point. I couldn't come back and fight, you know, but I've always earned my way back up. I worked my way back up. So now you want me to work my way back up again? How many times I got to do that in my career? Haven't I earned the right, not having lost a fight in over a decade? I mean, come on, I'm old. I haven't fought in over almost a year. I mean, I'm a perfect opponent.
So I want to ask you about that. One of the last things I want to ask you. So you are 42.
Yeah. Right?
I don't want to be ageist, but I'm 39. So I know I don't feel like I did when I was 29. Right. But how are you feeling as an athlete, as a fighter right now at age 42?
Better, because I'm like Bernard Hopkins, like George Foreman, like Roy Jones. I train smarter. I'm trained smarter, not harder. It's so true what they say about that. I am so much better now. My weight, I walk around at 130. My weight, I maintain with ease. I ate a piece of carrot cake on Sunday, and I enjoyed every bit of that. And I enjoy my life. I live.
That's your cheat meal, carrot cake?
I mean, but you know what? Listen, the way that I maintain my weight, I don't have cheat meals. I don't need cheat meals. I had a burger for dinner. I had a cheeseburger with a yam. With sweet potato, with half a tablespoon, with a tablespoon of butter and some salt on it. It was damn good. You know, I ate avocado toast. You know, I mean, I eat. People think like, oh, like, but I'm active. I live the lifestyle. You know, I'm not working out. Today I trained. So I work for Phil Daru. Phil Daru he's probably the best strength and conditioning coach in combat sport. He trained Dustin Poirier, Jurjan Jacek, a ton of the top MMA fighters. He worked with a lot of boxers as well. including myself. And so like he's got it down to a science. I mean, I work for the man. So I work in the gym that I train at. So I work today and then I go it's time for me to train at 3:00. And then we're doing my training. And I train with high level athletes, all high level MMA fighters and boxers, that are in there. So, I mean, it's all about, for me right now, and this is the secret, strength and conditioning, maintaining your muscle. For women in their 40s, maintaining your mature muscle, using explosive activity, keeping that explosiveness, the fast twitch going. I don't run these long miles anymore. I run for my heart rate. I maintain my heart rate and I just run for heart rate. Everything I do is based on my heart rate variability. It's the science. It's proven. And that's why my last fight, people couldn't believe how much energy I had, because I don't train hard. I train smart.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. And any elite athlete outside of boxing will tell you that. And it's an endurance sport. Boxing is partly endurance sport. Women have great endurance as we get older. Plus, we don't have testosterone. Why do you guys lose hair and we don't? I mean, it's science too. Our testosterone levels don't drop. We just got to maintain, our body, maintain our health. And I've done that hormonally through food, through doing my research. I have a great diet coach, my best friend. She's known what my body's gone through. She knows my body. She's been doing my meal plans and my diet since 2013, 10 years. She's been through the whole evolution of it. I mean, it's all about the food. It's really about the food. And this, I think, the strength and conditioning. Boxing, I've been doing boxing for so long. It's about sharpening the tools, but I have to make sure I have the tools that need to be sharpened. So the tools come from, for me, my strength and conditioning.
Some of the men aren't liking these. They're saying I'm 42. I'm losing my hair. She's talking to me. But look, what? Let's just. This is my final question to you. Where do you go from here? Because it looks like the Shanika Johnson Alex Scotty fight's going to get rescheduled, more than likely.
Yeah.
So are you going to wait? Are you going to get a tune-up in between? Are you? What do you?
We'll see. We'll see what happens. I leave that my manager Luigi Ochese, he's going to handle that. I'm going to keep talking.
She's not revealing the cards. Look at that. Smart. Okay.
I'm going to keep talking my talk. I mean, listen, I'm ready. I'm ready to go, but I'm not fighting at 130. I'm not fighting I'm fighting at my weight class, and I'm here and I'm training and I'm maintaining my life. But again, I train as if even if I wasn't boxing, I would still be doing this because it's my lifestyle. I love it. I've been doing this for more than half my life. That's never going to change. The minute I decide not to fight, I'll know when I'm ready to say no. It's when I don't have that fire in me. I mean, you can ask my teammates when I'm in the gym and I'm hitting the mitts, when I land that sweet right hand, I'm like, woo, because I know, and I love it. It feels so good,
There you go.
And again, the other thing is the sparring. Like, I'm not really at this sparring too. Like, you can't be sparring all the time. I don't spar when I'm not in camp.
I know I said one, but I need to ask you about Katie Taylor. Where do you think she stands all time at this point?
All time as in?
Like, let's say she retired let's say she beats Cameron and then she retires, right? I don't think she will, but let's say she does. Where do you think she's going to rank, like, all time as a female boxer?
Oh, for what she's done, again, like for what she's done and where she's come and the level of women's boxing, where it is right now. I think she's done amazing. I think she's done great things. I mean, I wish she'd learned some defense. That was my only gripe with her style. I think she's a great fighter. I just don't think she has any defense. And I mean, people can argue with me, but I'm not putting her down. I'm saying that I think that would have been just an extra thing to see that defense. I think a lot of females need to work on their defense. I think that's when you'll see even better styles, because a lot of them stay straight up. They come right back to center. They don't move their heads. They don't have the finesse or the footwork.
Do you rate Clarissa higher than her?
See, people do the pound for pound list, and it's like based on what? Like, what are you basing it on? Opposition, accolades? Like, what are you really?
Oh, like it's so hard to say because they're not even in the same division. But like, I guess an argument against Clarissa, and it's like not her fault, but there's not that much opposition up there.
Well, she's a big fish in a small pond.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's happened with a lot of girls. They're big fish in small ponds, or they're, or they're just not getting promoted. So you don't know. There could be a girl out there better than Katie Taylor, but she doesn't have Matchroom behind her. But again, I'm just saying, like, but you know, I mean, I think Katie Taylor's definitely up there. Listen, all the women of what they're doing right now, I think it's great. I love to see this. And at the end of the day, I feel like I'm glad that I had my role, whatever it was in women's boxing, to create this stage that's there right now. I know that I was a part of that, whether people tell me that or not. I know I was. And I'm really glad that it's there, you know, and as far as everything else goes, it's still going to evolve and it's exciting to watch, you know, because we started at such a, I mean, we weren't even in the Olympics, you know what I mean? Like we weren't on TV. You know, we didn't get
It's crazy to think that there was a time where like they didn't consider women boxing in the Olympics. It was just
no,
like
we weren't, but that's why I turned pro in 2005.
yeah,
Why? Because I wasn't going to wait around. But I look at
true.
Christina Cruz, who Christina Cruz from Hell's Kitchen. I trained with Christina Cruz. Man, we trained together back in the Patterson, New Jersey days. You know, we sparred together. You know, when I turned pro, she was an amateur. She stayed in the game, and she's 40, and she now just turned pro. But she's having a hard time too. She's not
Nobody
getting
wants to. I cannot disclose what fight, but some people were offered fights and didn't want to fight her. So
yeah. So people, what, she didn't want the fight, so they didn't want the fight.
no, they didn't want to fight.
Well, that's the thing. So it's like
this were higher weight classes too.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, and I'm saying though, but it's like, you know, it's a tough. She's in a tough position. That was the point. She's in a tough position now too, you know. And I think I'm in a tough position. Tiara's in a tough position. But isn't, you know what the common denominator is here? We're all Americans. We're all Americans. Why are all the Americans in the tough positions and the Europeans are getting the shots?
So third time's a charm. This is my third final question. So who's a fighter that was fighting around the time you were fighting that you didn't get to fight for whatever reason that you wish you would have been in the ring with? A fighter you wish you fought.
That I didn't get to fight? That's not fighting anymore?
It could be active. I mean, it could be anybody.
Oh, I would have liked to fight Amanda Serrano.
Okay.
I think that would have been a great fight. I think both our styles, that would have been a great fight.
Sure. Would you still fight her today?
Back and forth with us, huh?
Would you fight her today if you were offered that fight? At 126?
At 122, I'd fight her.
Okay. She would have to come down. Okay. Fair enough. Okay. That would be a good fight, actually. Why not? Well, Maureen, I want to thank you for coming on the podcast here. Any final words you want to say before we let you go?
I appreciate everybody's support and, you know, everybody on Twitter who I hadn't been on Twitter in so long and everybody started following me. And thank you so much for your time today and asking me these questions and giving me the platform to be able to speak and share a little bit of my story and how I feel. And, you know, again, at the end of the day, it's not negative. There's a lot of positives going on today, but there are just some things that could be changed and could be a little bit better that I think need to be spoken about. And that's why I'm speaking out. And everybody can follow me at Maureen_Shea on Instagram, Twitter, obviously Maureen Shea. And if you have any questions for me or you have, you know, rebuttals for my stuff, like come at me, like please challenge me. I love the challenges, you know. I again, in all fun, in all seriousness, like I don't take a lot of things personal. Believe me, I've been through too much. I got thick skin. So anything you have and, you know, any comments or concerns or questions, like, you know, feel free.
Absolutely. You have a good one, Maureen.
Thank you. You too. Take care.
All right, guys. So that was Maureen Shea. Make sure you follow her on her social media platforms and all that good stuff. And shout out to the Chad man from MAW in the building, Chicano Prophet, boxing historian, JC, Ponche Punchy. There you go. Shout out to you. Soteo Media in the building. How's it going, brother? Shout out to everybody. I saw a comment here from the GOAT saying she's talking too much. Well, she's being interviewed, brother. She's being asked questions. She's supposed to talk. I don't want to interview a mute now. You know what I mean? I don't want to interview somebody that don't got nothing to say. You know what I mean? Like, what's going on? I enjoyed that. And we'll see, man. I just want these girls to get their shot. Like, she's earned her shot. Give her a shot. You know what I mean? And why not? Okay? I think that will be a good Maureen against Shea against Trinica Johnson or Alice Scottney is a good fight. Why not? You know what I mean? And we're still live, JC. Calix will be joining me momentarily. We're still on for another hour. Hit the like button. We're ready to rock. You know what I mean? A lot to talk about here. So much to talk about. Let me bring up an interview I saw. You guys could go watch this interview on G Funky Boxing. It's an interview with Samson. All right. One particular question that was asked: would you be willing to go to the zone or to make the Canelo fight happen? He said no, and he said Canelo's contract is expiring or something like that. Okay. Then he said that David fight has to happen, and it's like Canelo needs to fight him. Look, there's no doubt that everybody wants to see that fight. Everybody wants to see David Benavidez versus Saul Canelo Alvarez. I don't think we'll get it this year. I do think Canelo's going to end up fighting Bivol, to be quite frank. But if he doesn't fight Bivol and he fights Benavidez, I'm not against that either at all. I like both fights, quite frankly. But if he fights David, hey, let's do it. I'm all for it. However, Samson did say no. Samson said, as I bring Calix in here, Canelo's contract's expiring. And some people might say, well, he didn't say no, he won't go there. But why is he bringing up the fact that Canelo's contract is expiring? Now, let me make this very, very clear. I don't give a rat's ass where the fight happens. The fight could happen on the zone. The fight could happen on Showtime. It could happen on both in a joint venture. It could happen on A&E. It could happen on TNT. It can happen on ESPN. It could happen on the Disney Channel, ESPN Plus. I don't give a shit where the fight takes place. Let me make that very, very clear. But every time, Calix, every time I ask, do you think Al Heyman will allow David Benavidez to go over to the zone to fight Canelo if that's where Canelo wants to fight? No one answers a fucking question. Instead, I get, why do you care where the fight happens? I don't care where the fight happens. I'm not asking you if you care where the fight happens. I'm asking you that if the real possibility of Canelo saying, yo, you're going to fight me on the zone, let's go. If that happens, which isn't crazy to think, Alex, 9 out of the last 10 Canelo fights have all been on the zone, right? And the one that wasn't on the zone was the most difficult to make, and he had to do it because that's the only way he was going to become undisputed. What am I missing here? Why can't people answer a simple question?
It's all facts. It's all facts, and it's all narratives falling apart, correct? Because what was the other narrative that fell apart today? Did you catch Dimitri Bivol's managers on Little Giant Boxing?
I did not.
Dimitri Bivol's manager said today in an interview, or maybe it was yesterday, but it broke on Twitter today. And what did he say? He said, the only way we do the Canelo fight is if it's at 168. We have no interest in a Canelo rematch at 175. So what does that verify, DStyle? It verifies what you and I have been talking about since the day after the fight happened, the original fight, is Canelo's not the one asking for 168. It's Bivol asking for the rematch at 168. He's been doing it since after the fight. It was the interview after the fight. Directly after the fight, he said, I'm not interested really in a rematch unless he's putting his belts on the line.
But we don't know, Calix, is that Canelo went behind the scenes and he forced Bivol to say that so people don't blame Canelo for it. That's what happened. Don't you understand? It's Canelo's fault.
But it's easy, and this is the problem with the Canelo haters / detractors is there are things that you could go after Canelo on, some things, but they don't even go after the right things. Like, take this, for example. You can say, oh, well, Canelo should agree to put his belts on the line at 168 if Bivol wants that, since Bivol won the first fight. That would be something you could go after, right? But what do they do instead? The guys like Andre Ward, they say, oh, Canelo's trying to weight drain him. He's literally saying, I will fight you at 175, your division, with no rehydration clause again. So what they're going after Canelo for is not even the things you should go after Canelo for. All right? If you want to go after him for something that's fair, say, hey, you're not willing to put your belts on the line at 168 for a Bivol rematch. But what it sounded like to me when I'm watching Bivol, and I like Bivol, but what it sounded like to me when I'm watching the interview that his manager did, and like I said, if you want to go watch it, Little Giant Boxing on YouTube, it's out there, it's floating around out there. It's also floating around on Twitter. It doesn't seem like they're really interested in the rematch. All right. And this other narrative that's been exposed is Canelo is not holding up Bivol versus Better BF. They can fight each other.
It's all June. Canelo's fault.
They can fight each other in September. Canelo did not exercise the immediate rematch. So Bivol is free to go wherever he would like. So what Bivol's manager is saying is, we got to do the fight at 168. He's dictating terms to Canelo. He's saying, we got to do the fight at 168. We're not interested in 175. That's number one. Put your belts on the line. We want to be undisputed in 2 weight classes. That's what he's saying. The other thing he is saying is we want to pick our judges. We also want to pick the location because we don't, whatever location Canelo has in mind, they're not agreeing. So there are a lot of obstacles, it seems like, for the fight in September. And I'm not so sure after hearing this interview that Canelo versus Bivol happens in September, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
And on top of that, what you're talking about with Benavidez also is, you know, when you watch the interview that Samson did with G Funky Boxing, is he's saying, and credit to G Funky for asking this question that we've been begging the media to ask. What does he say? He says, are you willing to let him go to the zone? And he says strictly, no. He's a free agent.
But there's some people saying that he didn't say no.
He did. He clearly said it.
No, he's saying that Canelo's contract is expiring. Canelo's a free agent. Like, don't you guys understand what I'm asking here? Like, if I go to I don't know, if I go to the restaurant, right, and I say, hey, waiter, if I order the ribeye, does it come with 2 sides? Yeah, but I mean, why would you get the ribeye? There's so many options. You know, you can get the chicken strips. You can get a sirloin steak. You can get the soup. I mean, there's filet mignon. Like, you can get a lot of stuff here. What? Like, I'm not asking you. I'm asking you that if I order the ribeye, does it come with 2 sides? That's all I'm asking. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to know that I can't. I know I could order whatever the fuck I want from the menu. I know this. I know Canelo has a menu. He could go to the Zone. He could go to PBC. He can go to ESPN Plus. He could get Bob Aramacall and do it on ESPN Plus if he wants. You know what I mean? He could do whatever the fuck he wants to do it. Right? That's not the question. Why can't people just answer the simple question?
Look, people are trying to do mental gymnastics and make this more difficult than this. This is as simple as I can put it. And people get this, and we're just going to put it simply again, is Canelo, wherever he wants the fight to happen, that's where it happens. And Benavidez has to agree to that. Point blank, period.
They don't want to say that, Calix.
But these, I saw it again on Twitter today as people are saying, well, Canelo's a free agent, so there is no crossing the street. No, listen, there is a Canelo Drive or Canelo Street, whatever you want to call it. And Canelo stays there. And he decides if he wants Trust Fund Eddie to come over in the street and get the paperwork signed to run the fight and do all this stuff, then that's his prerogative. This is Canelo Drive, all right? And Benavidez has to walk across the street and fight on Canelo Drive no matter who is in charge of the paperwork. Whether it's Al and Steven or Trust Fund Eddie in the Zone, guess what? Whatever Canelo says, that's where you go.
I agree 100%, and it's common sense to me, right? But people still refuse to acknowledge the question and just answer it. Like, I don't know what's wrong with people.
There's no comment.
You were on the round table. You weren't on when this happened. You were on like a few minutes later. Mm-hmm. But myself and Joe Habib, we had a very intense back and forth on the roundtable, right? Because I was asking this very simple question. And shout out to Nando, by the way. I appreciate the support, brother. Shout out to Nando Llamas, by the way. Okay. I appreciate that, brother. We're going back and forth. I was just asking a simple question. And I'm getting, well, I don't care where the fight happens. Why do you care where it happens? I never said I care where the fight happens. I literally never said that. And I had several people on social, because DStyle says names. I don't, it's what it is. I had several people hit me up on Twitter, like, why do you care where the fight happens? Canelo's, if he's a free agent, it could happen wherever he wants. That's not what I'm not arguing. I cannot debate someone if they're not arguing against my point. Like, if it's not something I said, I can't debate against it. I can argue against it. It's a very simple question that there's a precedent for, and I'll explain what it is. Why? Let me explain why I'm asking this question and why I believe people don't want to answer it, Calix. Okay? I'm asking if Canelo wants the fight to happen on the Zone or anywhere else other than PBC. Let's see, he does it with Top Rank for all, I don't know. Okay, let's say, but it's more likely the Zone if it's not PBC. If Canelo says the fight's going to happen on the Zone, across the street, homie, let's go, right? To me, it's non-debatable. Canelo holds all the chips. Benavidez needs to go where Canelo says, or he's ducking. I don't give a fuck what anybody says, right? But they don't want to go on record, Calix. The reason I'm asking is because I know, let me address that first. I know what happened in the Plant fight. I know that Canelo wanted to fight. He was healthy, and he wanted to fight, okay, on Mexican Independence Day weekend. That was a very important date to him. And PBC used that to leverage it against him, right? To try to lock him in a multi-fight deal. And they called his bluff, right, to make that Plant fight. And he stood his ground and said, nah, you ain't going to hold me hostage. You know what I mean? You're not going to do that to me. You're not going to, like, fuck that shit. Now, they ended up doing the fight eventually. And they agreed to do a one-fight deal in November. Okay, it took them 2 months to finally get this dude to get them to agree to fight, right? Because he was stubborn and he wanted that fight. After going through all that, people expect me to believe that PBC is not going to try to play hardball if Canelo doesn't take their initial deal. Because they have every right to make Canelo an offer. Like, I never said they don't. I never said Canelo can't go to PBC. I never said that.
They should make an offer. They should
make an offer, and if Canelo takes it, you got no argument for me. Canelo says, "Oh, this is great. I'm going to go to work with Uncle. I want to thank Al Heyman. If he wants to thank Al Heyman, hey, it's all good. No argument for me." But if Canelo says, "I don't care, they're offering me more money. I don't care if it's a sweeter deal. I don't care if most fighters would have taken it. I want to do it on the Zone. Let's go." Right? The reason they don't want to answer the question is because they want to be able to, they don't want to take a principled stance, Calix. They want to be able to argue against Canelo's favor in case he doesn't take the PBC deal and he wants to fight on the Zone. How do I know this? Because I was on the Boxing Voice with individuals arguing with me that Canelo is ducking Caleb Plant because he didn't take the multi-fight deal. I had dudes in the Boxing Voice telling me, hey, DStyle, Canelo said he wanted to be undisputed. Is he a man of his word? If he's a man of his word, he needs to take the deal that PBC is offering him, right? So I've dealt with this type of shit before. I know the storm that is coming. If you think the Zone is going to let Canelo go fight over there, no questions asked, oh, it's all good, you know, you're out of your mind. They're gonna have a bidding war. And if the Zone wins the bidding war for Canelo, Benavidez' ass needs to go to the Zone. Yeah. Like point blank, period. Like Canelo being a free agent, like when Sampson says, oh, Canelo's going to be a free agent. That doesn't mean he needs to sign with PBC to fight your dude. That means he could sign wherever the fuck he wants to sign. For all we know, Top Rank picks him up. We don't fucking know, right? But wherever Canelo signs, that's where you got to go. If it's PBC, if it's Showtime, okay, good. I don't care. But I think that's what it is, Calix, to be honest with you. I think that they don't want to go on record. Individuals don't want to go on record, especially especially if they're pro like Benavidez. They don't want to go on record and just say, if he goes to the zone, that Benavidez needs. You know why? Because they know we're gonna crop it, and they know we're gonna put it side by side, and they contradict themselves in the future. Shout out to Drew, 199 Super Chats. His thoughts on Bivol wanting a rematch 68 per manager. We did touch on that, but I didn't get to dive in on that. From Bivol's perspective, I honestly do get it. I do.
Me too.
From Bivol's perspective, I already beat you at 175. I put my title on the line. I was the big underdog. I beat you. No questions asked. So if you want me to fight you again, of course I want to get paid. I'm sure he wants to get paid. But he's asking himself, what is it? What's in it for me that I haven't already done? I've already beat you. So what is it for me? All the belts? Undisputed? I don't blame Bivol for saying, yeah, if you're going to make me fight you again, at the very least, I want to become undisputed champion in doing it. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. Now, there are a couple of things here. I'll do two theories, and shout out my guy, Drew. The first theory would be Dimitri Bivol right after the fight. You and I both saw this interview. We talked about it at the time when this theory started to run from the Canelo detractors that, Canelo's going to weight drain Bivol for a rematch. Andre Ward was pushing this theory out there. Why don't you just fight him at 175 at his weight? He wasn't asking for 168. Bivol, after the fight, said, if I'm going to fight him again, I want him to put something on the line. I want to fight for his titles. And why would he think that way? Because he could be the first fighter to become undisputed in 2 weight classes in back-to-back fights, right? He could do it at 168 and then turn around and fight Better Biev at 175 and become undisputed at 168, 175. And also, Bivol stays in the gym and he fights close to his weight. So to drop 7 more pounds probably isn't a big task for him. He could probably make 168 comfortably. I mean, pretty comfortably. So he fights close to his weight. He stays in the gym. He's a throwback fighter. But this was a bizarre interview from the manager. I don't know if you caught it. I don't know if the people in the chat caught it. So please go and watch this interview with Dimitri Bivol's manager. And he's saying, there are things that we need if this rematch is going to happen. And he's point blank saying, I don't think the rematch is going to happen because I don't think Canelo is going to go along with these terms. They want to make sure they got judges in place that they like, that they agreed to, that the site is something that they agreed to. So they're going to be dictating terms. And they want this fight at 168. They want Canelo putting his belts on the line. So the alternative theory is they're going to ask for a lot of things in order to step away from the Canelo fight. And he also says during the interview, he said, it's bizarre to me. His manager is saying it's bizarre to me that they want this rematch with us because we clearly beat him. It's not a good matchup for him. So it's weird. And I think it goes back to a lot of people still don't understand the mindset of Canelo. Like he needs to circle back to that. It doesn't sit well.
I'll take it a step further, Calix. Like I agree with his comment. Like Bivol does have a right to request it at 168. Like he does. He's like, yo, you want to fight me? You want to redeem yourself? If put your titles on the line. You know what I mean? Shout out to Drew. They will put both Bivol and Canelo belts on the line like they did for Tank and Leo. Well, WBA will make an exception. Now, I'll be honest. They might do that. You're probably right. I don't like that idea. I don't like a 175-pound belt being on the line at 168. But Leonard did it. Tank's done it. Who else did it? Other fighters have done it, I think. I think it's happened another time that I can't recall. But look, Bivol has a right to say, I want your belt on the line.
For a lot of people is most boxing fans would rather stylistically Canelo versus Benavidez. So people should be looking at this interview with Bivol's manager and saying, okay, that's Benavidez's opening there. You know, Bivol's manager is saying, I don't think this fight happens in September. And by the way, he's also waiting for Munguia. It sounds to me like Bivol's camp is sort of like all over the place because they're waiting one more week to see if Munguia comes to the table. And I'm like, Munguia is not going to come to the table. I can't believe people actually believe that fight could happen. And Bivol's manager seems to be thinking that this fight could happen. So June's not going to happen for Bivol. July is likely not going to happen. They're going to wait around till September for Canelo, the Canelo fight. And if that falls apart for him, then they're banking on better Biev is what it sounds like. But the problem with that is WBC is not going to, as of right now, allow an undisputed fight to happen between two Russian fighters. One of them a Russian national.
Look, we're waiting on. We're literally waiting on Munguia to fight somebody in the yard, and I'm expected to believe he's gonna go like go fight the dude in the yard. He hasn't even like entered the yard, and I'm expected to believe he's not only gonna enter the yard, he's gonna go at the big fish. Like he's gonna go straight for the head. He's gonna go straight for Bivol. Like nah, give me a fucking break. Shout out to Drew Calix. Why don't people get Canelo in? Why don't get his competitive? Well, why is that, Calix?
This is the thing that I talk about on my channel all the time, and it's the fans, the fanagers have been brainwashed. You know, they all talk about it's a business first, but they've been brainwashed. They've lowered their expectations of fighters, and they're just not used to seeing competitive fighters who are going to take chances. That's what it comes down to. Like, they see Stephen Fulton Jr. go where the fight belongs and fighting a fight he's supposed to be fighting and overpraise him. Why? Because they're just not used to it. Stephen Fulton's supposed to be going to Japan to fight in a way. He's fighting a guy moving up in weight where the money is. And, you know, I've said it, the PBC fighters and the PBC in particular has brainwashed these new age boxing fans into thinking a certain way. PBC fighters are not used to getting on a plane for a fight, looking down as they're flying and seeing an ocean. They're not used to it because they're not used to going where the fights belong. They're really, it's a domestic outfit, and these are domestic level fans at the same time. But they're not used to seeing fighters just be competitive and take chances. So it's odd to them. It's weird. And I'm watching Bivol's manager do this interview, and it's bizarre. He's thinking about it. He's even saying, it's bizarre to me that Canelo wants this fight. It's bizarre to me. And it's bizarre to anybody that a dude who clearly lost the first fight will win a second fight. And when he could go away from it and people would be forgiving of that. He could go fight Benavidez, and he even said it. Benavidez is the bigger fight, more money. It's Bivol's manager saying it. So
they're not giving him the career advice, like, you know, like.
But like Nando has said this about Bivol. Nando in the chat, he said this about Bivol. Like, I just don't trust Bivol. It's basically what he's saying. And I'm watching Bivol's manager here, and I'm like, what's the plan here? Like, did you really expect Munguia to come to the table in June? Did you not have a backup plan for June? And he's saying, you know, maybe we could do something in July.
Munguia is a cherry pick, bro. I'm sorry.
It is, but it's also something that, look at Munguia's track record. Like, did they really expect Munguia to fight Bivol after what he's done in the past? Did they really expect that to happen? Come on. But I'm watching this interview and I'm like, okay, it looks like you're dismissive of Canelo. It looks like you're waiting on Munguia for June. What exactly is the plan here? Following up on Fighter of the Year in 2022. What's the plan here? What is the plan? It doesn't look like there's much of a plan. If they're waiting for better Biev, good luck with that too, because that's even more obstacles. And by the way, that's embarrassing that fight hasn't happened 3-4 times over by now. It's embarrassing.
Yeah, I'm just gonna walk in.
For the better Biev people out there, the good news is you watch that interview and the door is now open for Canelo versus Bivol possibly in September. But what's the issue with that is Sampson is clearly saying, no, we're not going to go over to the fight at the zone. And if that happens,
let me offer this.
If that happens,
you know what I think is happening? Let me tell you what I think is happening on the Bivol side.
What's that?
This is my theory. I think they know Canelo wants this rematch. Like, they know it, right? Mm-hmm. So like the more they act like they don't want it, like really, I don't really want to fight this guy. The more money they know Canelo's gonna be like, yo, give him more money. You know what I mean? I wanted 175 because I don't want to hear. I don't want people to say that it was weight training. Give him another million if you fight me. Like I think that's what it is. I think they're trying to.
It's like you said. It's like the Canelo. In that way, his generosity backfires on him, right? Because Billy Joe Saunders the day before the fight, 22-foot ring. So he's like, give him the 22-foot ring, I'll knock him out. Then Caleb Plant, no, I don't want 8 million, I want 10. Give him two more million.
That's fine. Is Canelo really the diva? Because I know he's perceived as some diva. Like you know what I mean? Like, is he?
He's not. He's simply not. And like Drew said, like it's weird for some people to see a dude that's competitive. And the detractors the problem with the detractors is they don't detract the correct things. This is a specific example of that. Is if you want to go after Canelo, if there's an angle, you go after, you don't want to put your belts on the line at 168 at your own weight class. Why don't you do that? Instead, they're trying to use the angle that he's the one calling for 168 when he's not the one calling for 168. And there have been other examples of this, like Benavidez is the boogeyman. Benavidez is not the boogeyman because Canelo, it's not even believable. Canelo's never been afraid of stationary fighters. Come on.
Like, you would think he'll be more afraid of the guy that literally just beat him. Like, like it's just crazy. Shout out to Drew. I'm with DStyle. They will overpay for 175. Calix, you think this Bivol situations for Canelo is going to end up very similar to like Mosley Forrest, Mosley Winky Wright, where like he did the rematch and people are going to look back and say, why did Shane do those rematches?
That's my thinking. My thinking is there's certain dudes that they're just not for you. Right. And it's not like there's nothing wrong with that. And boxing is littered with examples, by the way, of fighter A being better than fighter B head to head. You know my stance on Pacquiao Mayweather. Mayweather, obviously the better fighter head to head, right? But greater fighter, I think Pacquiao is the greater fighter, pound for pound, all time. It's just my opinion. So you don't necessarily have to beat a fighter head to head to be greater. It goes with the overall resume and what you're doing. Some guys are just wrong for you stylistically. And I tend to think that Bivol is wrong for Canelo stylistically. I know you disagree with me on that, but I just think it's a dude. He's got every opportunity now to evade that. And he's not going to evade it. He's not. It's like Robert De Niro in Heat. Remember that? You ever seen Heat?
No.
And Robert De Niro, it's a classic movie, but Robert De Niro.
I've seen like Casino. I've seen a lot of Robert De Niro. But I've never seen that. What I'm saying
is he had to go in for that last job. If he would have not gone in for that last job, he would have went away, lived happily ever after, but he had to go in for the last job.
Had to do it, man.
He ends up
True.
Just has to. Just like Mosley just had to fight those fights and try to get the get back.
What sometimes the get back ain't there. We give Mosley a lot of grief for doing it. But like
credit.
I honestly do believe there's some inner peace you get when you just know, right?
Yeah.
Like if he never did the rematches, he would never know if he would have won the rematch,
And that's our big break from the modern day boxing fan, the new age boxing fan, right? Is we forgive that. And we say, all right, we're all at peace now. And I credit him for going there. He lost the fights, but these new age boxing fans are like, oh, look at him. He's so stupid. He can make more money fighting an easier fight. Look how stupid he is. I don't understand that logic. I don't get it.
By the way, to everybody listening, make sure you hit the like button. Let's get to 30 ASAP. Come on, guys. Let's get to 30 likes. Drew with a super chat. He says, Canelo hangs with Steph Curry and other top athletes competing at golf. Boxing fans aren't used to a fighter cut from that cloth like other athletes. You think Canelo has like that Jordan in him, like that quote, and I took that personal? Like, do you think quote, you think Canelo's got that?
Yes. You saw what he did when Messi was perceived to step on the flag. It's like
he was ready to throw down with Messi, bro.
he doesn't let stuff go. Like it just doesn't like.
If I see Messi, Messi better pray to God he don't run into me. Like, whoa, you're threatening the dude, bro. What are you doing?
It's hilarious, but I like that's the endearing thing. It's like he's fighting he wants to fight B-Ball again, and there are much easier fights to go fight, and some of them are even bigger than a B-Ball fight, like Benavidez.
Shout out to Drew, by the way.
Yeah, shout out to Drew.
Remy says, "What up, DStyle Calix? Bivol playing money game? I think he is, and why not? Shit."
Yeah,
you beat the Golden Goose. You milk it for all it's worth. Like I mean,
you can make the demands, but be careful and have a plan. That's the beautiful thing about Canelo, right? As he comes in his goal, he sets a clear and concise goal, and he pushes it out to the boxing fan. And he said, "This is my goal this year. My goal is to go to the homecoming fight and get back with B-Ball." The problem with B-Ball is there's not a concise plan. I'm listening to his manager talk, and I'm like, wait, you're waiting on Munguia? You really thought a Munguia fight was good? You really thought that Munguia was going to step up and fight B-Ball at whatever weight based off of his track record? Like that was your plan? And it's going to fall through, and you're just going to wait till September now, and you're going to fight once this year? Like, that's the plan?
Munguia, like, I hope the fight happens. I hope they put Munguia in there with Bivol just to get it over with. I just need somebody to outbox Munguia, because that's what's going to happen, right? It'll be 12-zip. You know, like that's how I see the fight. 12-0, right? Munguia gets outboxed. And then Golden Boy can stop playing this stupid game they're doing with Munguia. They're not promoting Munguia right. Munguia is an action fighter, bro. Okay? You should be promoting Munguia as this exciting dude that's must-watch TV. Okay? Mm-hmm. That's how I feel about it.
And look, when I see this comment here, it just goes back. The endearing thing to fans about B-Ball last year was that he was a fighter, and he was concerned with legacy. And he was dismissive of the big fight and wanted the meaningful fights. Now you hear his manager talk, and you see that we're into April, middle of April, and there's no fight and there's no momentum. And this is what I go back to is like, there's not going to be a baton passed. These people who just think that anybody who beats Canelo is just going to get a baton passed to him, B-Ball shows you it doesn't work that way. So yeah. Benavidez better get some more work in before a Canelo fight if he wants the baton passed, because it's not Canelo who dictates who the baton is passed to. It's the boxing fans, right?
True.
Oscar De La Hoya didn't dictate, I'm passing the baton to Mayweather, I'm passing the baton to Pacquiao. It was the fans. When De La Hoya gave those guys a shot and those guys defeated him, the fans trusted those fighters to make a run after that. And both fighters had that track record, and we knew they would because of the track record before that fight.
The reason we know that is these guys
don't have a track record before the Canelo fight is the problem.
The reason we know that too is because like other guys beat De La Hoya and the baton wasn't passed. Right? Bivol obviously doesn't have the baton. You know what I mean? Like he just doesn't. I think he knows that, and I think he knows where he's at, and I think he understands his position. But really quick about Munguia. Golden Boy is doing a disservice by protecting Munguia. Munguia is a guy that can have 6 losses on his record, and people will go watch him if you promote him right. Like, that's the truth. That's how I feel about, and I want to transition to this, Fundora. Fundora was dominating the fight, to be honest with you. He was in control of the whole fight. And then he got clipped really good with I believe it was a hook, and then he was finished with a right, if I remember correctly.
Left hand got him.
Yeah. And I think he wishes he went down with a hook, to be honest with you, because he got clipped with that right, and that one finished him. Before we talk about the fight, well, what do you make of the fans? And I saw Glacier come out and say this, like they were calling him a quitter, and he quit. Like, what do you make of that? Like, I honestly, I don't think he knew where the fuck he was at.
He didn't. He had no idea. I think they think because he was doing this with his head, but you can see it in his eye. He wasn't there. He just simply wasn't there. It wasn't going to happen. It just wasn't going to happen. So no quitting. No, I mean, right. But I got to give you credit. It's like you called that last week. You said, I think his knockout, if you said this, if it's his chin we're talking about, that means he gets hit a good bit. And he got hit again here, and Erickson Lubin may have softened the chin up a little bit.
I believe
and
so.
We got what we got in the Mendoza fight.
I'll keep it 100. I didn't think it was going to be this fight. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I predicted him to win. I bet on him to win, actually, on a parlay. But so I wasn't expecting it this fight. Like, I didn't think this was the one, right?
That Showtime card to me was sad. It was sad watching. And,
really,
it was sad to watch because.
Why? That's a great fight. They were great fights.
No, but when I think Showtime boxing.
Explain sad, because you're using the word sad.
It was sad because to me, it just looks like something is dying. Or Showtime boxing, to me, I'm looking at the numbers, and the numbers continue to decline. And I'm looking at.
Oh, you're talking about the energy, the lack of energy in the crowd.
Yeah, I'm looking at
enthusiasm for the card.
Just the whole picture. I'm looking at ESPN's ratings, boxing ratings, and they do. What was it? Shaw was fighting a Jegbo, I believe, and that fight did 360,000 or 370,000. And these Showtime cards are doing 95, 100,000 viewers. Showtime, the mighty Showtime, is falling with ratings, and on top of that, I used to tune into fights. They used to call it the Home Depot Center out in Causin, California. They call it the War Grounds now. And we saw Paul Williams, Antonio Margarito fought there. You got a lot of lower weight class fights that used to happen there between Mexican fighters. And there used to be wars there. Even De La Hoya remember when De La Hoya fought Forbes at the tennis courts over there? And you used to be able to watch fights there on TV, and the energy used to come through the screen.
It was definitely there. Like, no doubt about it. I have some answers for you, but go ahead.
But Fundora, it's not that he got knocked out. It's that he got knocked. People are sending me videos that I know it's halfway full, if that. And then people are leaving, they're saying, in the 4th, 5th round because they're not entertained, I guess. And he gets knocked out, and it's about 25% full. And that's the sad part about me, to me, about this is he's a fun fighter to me. He's a fun fighter. He's nice. He's marketable, but he's not translating to the market. And the market seems to be diminishing both with Showtime and both at a once great venue like Causin, California. And
they got to give up on that venue,
on top of that, DStyle, it's like you watch a fighter like Brandon Lee. I thought he lost to Compa, and I bet on Compa. So maybe I'm a close fight. But I thought he lost the fight, and I'm watching these guys, and I'm like, they're just not active, and they're not being built up correctly. They're not being promoted correctly. What is the overall plan for, say, PBC and Showtime here? Will Showtime be around in some aspect 2 to 3 years down the line? It's just sad to watch.
You think there's like here's what I'll say to all this. A couple of things, because there was something similar in the. We could both agree that Bam is a hell of a talent. I mean, like, it is what it is. But Bam fought with a broken jaw, right? Mm-hmm. I thought he won, but it was close. Like, it is what it is. But the fact that he made it through, like, he was closer to losing than we think because he had a fucked up jaw. Yeah. But here's the thing. It's in San Antonio, which used to be, it probably still is, a great fight town. Yeah. And Pacquiao used to have cards in San Antonio. Like I'm just saying, like, that's a fight town. And it's not sold out. There's no energy there. And I know what it is, by the way. Like, I think I know. I can't say for sure, but I have an idea. And I have the same thing with the Fundora card. The same thing. Shout out to Red Glove Middleton. I appreciate you, brother. Keep up the good Ray. I appreciate you too, man. Shout out to Red Glove Middleton. He has a channel on here. Subscribe, guys. Shout out to you, brother. Look, let's start with the matchroom card. Okay. I appreciate Eddie Hearn having all these cards. I do. And he has them in England, and he has them in Mexico, and he has them in the US, and he's giving a lot of cards, right? And he's matching them up okay. They're not like mismatches. But there's something missing, in case you haven't noticed. And here's one of them. Eddie Hearn is spreading himself too thin, bro. He showed up to San Antonio the day before the fight. You got jet lag, you got to sleep. Why didn't you promote this event in San Antonio? The groundwork, bro. Where is it? Where's the ground roots promotion where you go to the car dealerships and when he didn't have time to go to all the local radio stations, TV stations, go to local car dealerships and give a few tickets away to promote the event. Where's all that? Eddie Hearn can't do all that, and if it's not him, who's doing it? Eddie Hearn does cards in Mexico with Laura, Mauricio Lara, and he can't sell them out, bro. Now, it's not a Mexico problem, and it's not a San Antonio problem, because when Top Rank puts events in Mexico or in San Antonio, they sell it out. When Top Rank puts cards, did you notice something about the Shakur Stevenson card?
Packed.
It was packed.
10,000 plus.
Because he was in front of his people. And by his
850,000.
I'm not being tribal when I say his people. I'm talking about Newark.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? People that give a fuck about who he is and they're invested in the result. Right? And there was energy in the crowd. We can feel that through a TV screen. Mm-hmm. We can. Right? And when you look at, I don't know what they have this obsession with the Causin, California. Dude, they're not showing up to the car showtime. Go somewhere else. Put it in a ballroom with 2,000 people. It'll look better. It's what? Okay? It's got to be honest. Right? Like it is what it is. Go put it somewhere where you're going to sell it out. Put it in an armory. Like, remember when there was a fight in the armory not long ago and the energy was there? You know what I mean?
They copped the hell out of that one, though.
Doesn't matter, though. Like, here's the thing. If you have to fake it till you make it, Calix, then you got to do it.
Yeah, but
guess what? Let me go to pro wrestling for a second. Bill Goldberg, that they piped in the cheers for him in the crowd for the TV audience to think, oh, this guy's hot, right? Guess what happened a couple months later? Everybody was a Bill Goldberg fan. They were selling out the I forget the name of the in Atlanta, like the dome, right? They were selling that whole thing out. Like, you could do that here. Like, I would rather them comp the tickets, right? And there be an electric crowd than there'd be a half-empty arena. That's my opinion.
Yeah, but here's the problem. Here's the problem with that. And shout out my guy Drew once again. Between Maurice and PBC and our Top Rank comps were on live gate, and they do. But and Drew can attest to this. Going back to Bam real quick, is we were sitting next to each other at the fight, Canelo versus Golovkin 3, Drew and I. And the co-main was Bam Rodriguez. And Drew will tell you, when Bam Rodriguez was fighting, the place was about 60% full, and he's fighting right before Canelo. And as the fight ends and we start to get the Canelo energy, that place magically just fills. Every single seat.
I'll tell you what they're doing wrong. Like, it's clear what they're doing wrong, Calix. You know what they're doing wrong? At the press conferences, well, why don't you do a sit down and have Canelo sit next to Bam Rodriguez and interview both of them?
But it goes to what I was about to say, is they're not properly promoting the fight. So you can comp the hell. You can comp the hell out of a card, but if you're not putting it in the right places,
I agree with that.
It goes back to when I went to Gulfport, Mississippi, Biloxi, Mississippi, to be exact, an hour down the road, to watch Berto versus Collazo. And I was comped, and I was sitting right behind Lou DiBella, sitting next to Jadon Condrington. And I'm there for free. And I'm thinking in my head, why the hell is this fight in Biloxi? I'm in a little theater. It's not even packed. And we got a Haitian American fighting a Puerto Rican American in Mississippi.
Doesn't make sense.
You can comp it. You can try to fill it and give it some sort of fake energy, but it's not sustainable because you're not properly promoting these fighters from the ground up. You are not We talk about it. Top Rank is still the best in the business by far at doing this.
By far.
Identifying young talent and building them up, giving them proper resistance early on to where we can find out about these fighters early on, who they are.
I'll tell you what Top Rank does right.
And on top of that, they're putting the fights for the most part where they belong, as opposed to promoters who are just taking the highest site fee. DStyle, we talked about this Morrell Jr. who fought in Minnesota. That's not sustainable, by the way. But that fight he fought where he put the guy in a coma 4 days before the fight, the fight isn't, the matchup isn't even on PBC's own schedule, on their own website.
Let me just address this really quick. Drew says between American, PBC, MR, who's MR? Matchroom. Top Rank comps ruin life. I can't believe it took me a moment. Matchroom will ruin life gate. Matchroom is not, look, Eddie Hearn is not a bad promoter. Let me just say that right now. I criticize Eddie Hearn a lot, but I'm not going to say he's a bad promoter. Mm-hmm. He's good at promoting, but he knows what he knows. Like, he's the best promoter in the UK. When it comes to promoting the UK, nobody could touch Eddie Hearn. Though Queensberry and Boxer do very well as well, but this is what separates Eddie Hearn from Top Rank, and I'll explain to you what it is. Top Rank knows where they're strong. They're strong with Latino fighters, mainly Puerto Rican and Mexican, okay? That's what they're strong with. Okay, they're strong with fighters in the Northeast. They know that very well, okay? And they're strong around the Vegas area. If you notice, very rarely do you watch a Top Rank card and see a half-empty arena. Very rarely. They know what they're doing. They know where they're putting the cards, and they're doing a really good job at the groundwork, Calix. Like, they have staff that works the ground. That's very important. It's very similar to like politics and when you're running for president or something and you have people on the ground. Like, they do a really good job with that. I know when Top Rank comes to El Paso, like, I get tired of seeing banners of them everywhere in dealerships and shit. Like, it is what it is. Like, but they're doing what they're supposed to do. And when it comes to Matchroom, Eddie Hearn's showing up 24 hours before the event. And he thinks, why put a Mexican in San Antonio? I give him a pretty decent card. That should do it, right? No. Oh, why put a Montana Love in Ohio? It's got to sell, right? Nah, like that helps, but that's not enough. What are you having? Is Montana Love like with the Salvation Army or something? Is he doing some charity like the week before the fight? Is he doing interviews with the local like media or something? Is he at car dealerships? Which it's car dealerships will promote you for free because they want people over there so they can sell cars. Okay, I hate to use that example, but and then here's the other thing Top Rank does right. Oh, Fury's going to fight in the UK? They partner up with Queensberry. And they let Frank Warren do his thing over there. Mm-hmm. Okay, Mayer. Okay, we're going to have Mayer fight in the UK. We're going to let Boxer. You know, you guys take care of that. You got it, right? They have an apparatus, and they have partnerships with people. Matchroom needs, and I always said this, they need, like, when they say Matchroom USA, like, they need a Matchroom USA. Like, they need like someone who's a figurehead that's not Eddie Hearn, that's doing the groundwork in the U.S. to promote the cards here. It doesn't mean Eddie Hearn can have a hand in it. It doesn't mean Eddie Hearn can't be here, but some of the shit he does is just random, bro. Like, he'll do cards and he'll be putting like on Australian, like Sky Nicholson on the fucking undercard. It makes no sense. Like you know what I mean? Like, it's just random. It's random as shit. You have to know your audience and you have to know what you're doing here. That Matchroom is not doing a good job in the US, right? Like, they're not. And then and PBC doesn't do good anywhere. Like, they don't do good in the US and they don't do good anywhere else, obviously. They specialize in the US and they can't sell out a fucking arena, bro. Why? You know why? Because they don't have a figurehead. Oh, he ain't out there like doing interviews and shit and promoting events.
He's mute. He's a mute. He's
a fucking mute, bro. That's not a promoter. UFC buying WWE was
You have the network exec working as a press secretary for him.
Yeah, like, I mean, that's why it's not working. You got Fundora, people walking out of a Fundora fight. That's a detachment from reality, bro. That's what that is.
It's inexcusable that he can't sell in cars in California.
It is inexcusable. That's where he's close from there.
Yeah.
Like, I'm telling you right now, man, I grew up in a time, Calix, where like Friday night fight events were sold out.
Yeah.
And there was a local fighter fighting there. Like, it is what it is. We're not there right now, bro. Like I see what it's saying though. Like, there is like this like feeling of like boxing is like when we step out of our bubble, people don't give a fuck about the sport. Like, that's the reality.
And to address this comment, it's a perfect segue. UFC buying WWE will shrink boxing on TV in USA, and that's very possible in the next couple of years because, like, say, Top Rank ESPN contracts coming up in a couple of years, and we don't know what's going to happen with Showtime, right?
But Bob's going to croak in a year now, so.
Yeah, and you know, Dana is.
I apologize. That sounded rude as fuck.
No, but Dana is ready to pounce. He does not like Bob, and he does not like Espinosa. He's ready to pounce. So what I'm hoping is, you know, they somehow get into the boxing business, and there's some sort of reset because fans do not want to hear it, but a lot of these fighters are overpaid, and it's hurting boxing fans, and it's hurting the market as a whole, and there needs to be a reset. But the reason is a perfect segue is Saturday night, I got friends from the neighborhood at my house, 3-4 TVs set up, and I got the one boxing TV, or the 2-3 boxing TVs because they have multiple fights, and then the one UFC TV is all eyes glued to it, multiple, every other eye glued to it except mine, and that's where we're at. Is Dana has done a great job, despite what, you know, and people can think whatever they want about him, about building a sustainable sport, and he's built a FOMO sport. It's a fear of missing out. A fear of missing out. Football does this. Like, I've seen women who don't know anything about football, and they'll go to football events because they want to be where the action is, where everyone is. And Dana has built this up. You've got people at these events who people gravitate towards, and then they're emotionally invested in certain fighters because they've been you know, they've seen these fighters come up on these cards, and Dana promotes pay-per-view events months in advance, sells them out, and it's an organic sport, and he's built it up organically, and people want to be a part of that. Whereas boxing, even if there's great fights, you know, people still aren't going to be attracted to it because
boxing, like, here's the problem, Calix. You know what the problem is? Perception is a very, very powerful thing. Right? Perception is more powerful than reality. Whether people want to admit it or not, it is. Okay? And what I mean by that is there's a perception. Fair, unfair, warranted, unwarranted. There is a perception in the sport of boxing. Okay? There's this perception that the best one fight the best, that the fights take forever to get made, and these fighters, they're not that active. Like, whatever it is, right? There's this a lot of negative energy and a lot of negative perception is put on boxing, right? And boxing fans don't understand that in order for boxing to reverse the perception, it needs to do it at a consistent basis. Meaning you got to go weeks, not day, not one event, not weeks,
you got to go
not
years.
months.
Years.
You got to go years showing people that the best are fighting the best. This is boxing fans in a nutshell, okay? In a nutshell, Calix. Yeah, we don't get the fights. We don't get the fights. When we finally get the fight, boxing fans rejoice and say, see, and you say that the best never fight the best. Yeah, that fight could have happened 3 years ago. Yeah, but it makes more financial sense right now. And like they talk about shit that, like, at best it's a good argument for the fighter, but it's a terrible argument for the sport.
Boxing fans don't even know how to flex properly because I've seen these conversations happen. I've seen boxing fans tell UFC fans, oh, your fighters don't get paid. And UFC fans just look at them with a blank look because they don't care. They're too busy having fun. They're too busy getting what they want. They could care less what their fighters are getting paid.
You don't fight a guy when the fans want it. You have to make him wait, and then when nobody wants it, you make it because you're going to pay him more, and then the people really want it when they don't know they want it more. Like, nah, bro. That's why the sports perception is how it is.
Yep.
The perception is earned. Like boxing earned this perception, like point blank. And it's got to fix that perception. Like people think if they give us one good fight, that's it. Like, oh, okay, we gave you what you wanted. We're done. Nah, like you gotta keep delivering. It's got to be consistent. It's like the equivalent of like cheating on a girl over and over. You keep cheating on her, right? And the one time she accuses you of it, you have proof that you didn't, right? I cheat. I was with my brother. In fact, I was live on YouTube with my brother watching a fight. Let me show you. See, I'm not a cheater. Yeah, but you cheated those other times, though. Like, you know what I mean? Like, she has a right to question you, brother. And then if you cheat the next week, like you know what I mean? Well, what about that one time? I didn't cheat that one time. That's how fans were acting about Ryan versus Tank getting made. Like, people were like, they could have stopped messaging me. Oh, you're always talking about fights don't get made. And what do you got to say now? I'm like, well, I'm happy that fight got made. I'm not against. That's the thing. They think I'm against fights getting made. No, I'm an advocate of fights getting made. So when they get made, I'm happy. They
and on top of that,
often enough.
On top of that, that fight could have been so much bigger had these fighters behaved like fighters before this fight.
Oh, yeah.
Even if they have L's on their resume, it didn't have to be O versus O. Even if they have L's on their resume, it goes back to what you said about Fundora, Munguia. Zepeda's another one. I don't need Golden Boy marketing these dudes as great pound-for-pound talents. I just need them putting them in fights. Zepeda, put him in there with Shakur. Co-promote that fight, put him in there with Shakur. If he loses, he loses. Who cares? It's Zepeda. Like, I want to watch a dude throwing 120 punches in a round, no matter if he wins or loses. I don't care. Just put him in there.
Alex, your brother's a big like UFC fan, right?
Yeah.
Does your brother care about how much money Tyson Fury can make if he prolongs the Usyk fight?
No, not a bit.
Does your brother care if Fury makes his weight till they fight in Saudi Arabia and he'll make more money that way?
No.
Does he care about that?
No, not at all.
Even if it's $60 million?
Nope, nothing.
I like how the people that care like act as if Fury's going to give him like a piece. Like if I was getting a piece of the pie, I'd be on here saying that he should wait too. But I ain't getting anything of that. You know what I mean? But
they don't care what their fighters get paid or don't get paid. They don't care.
This is where boxing's at. And I'm glad MAW is here because I believe in it. I might be wrong, but I believe he's from Australia. He can correct me if I'm wrong, but here's the thing. We live in an age, Calix, where fighters do the things we want them to do, people use the wrong adjectives. Like Tim Tszyu is like, okay, Jamal's injured. I know I have this undisputed title fight in front of me, but give me the next best. Who's the next best guy? Harrison. Fuck it, I'll fight him. Why? Are you dumb? That's stupid. You must be an idiot for doing that. What are we doing? Like, what? Why are boxing fans talking this way?
What other sport does that?
Why are you discouraging these fighters from like taking the best challenges? Like, what? Why aren't you instead saying, "Hell yeah"? You know what? I rock with Tim, man. That's what I want. I want dudes to fight the best. Win, lose, or draw. I'm telling you right now, I am Team Tszyu all day, every day, because he takes on all challenges. I don't give a fuck. He could get knocked out in the next fight. I'm still rolling with Tim. Because I appreciate fighters that fight everybody, that fight the best in front of them. That's what I want. I want guys to fight the best. All right? Like that's just what I want at the end of the day. All right? Now I want to take you to this though, before I forget. So your boy Teddy Atlas, right? I get that MMA is a cool kid in the block right now. I get it. Boxing's like that 40-year-old, 45-year-old girl. maybe past her prime. You know, once in a while she puts out, she's kind of nice once in a while. But MMA's this young 25-year-old girl, you know, hot, putting out anytime you want it, all the time, or whatever, right? I get it, Teddy. I get it, Teddy. You know what I mean? But Teddy's like, every MMA fight, all of them. He's like, man, that was like Thriller in Manila. Like, you know, whoa, calm down, Teddy. Oh, yeah, that was like the rope-a-dope, like Ali did against Foreman. And, Masvidal, he's a Jersey Joe Wildcat. He reminds me of Jersey Joe Wildcat. Like, Jersey Joe Wildcat. Like, holy shit, bro. Masvidal, the dude that's like pitching 500 in the UFC, he's Jersey Joe Wildcat. Every fight's Thriller in Manila, and this was going to get you, Calix. Once in a while, he busts out there Arturo Gatti versus Mickey Ward, too. He busts that one out. The first time, the fighter was like, oh, wow, I'm very, that's an honor, Teddy. But now, like, nobody says anything because he keeps saying it. Like, it's like Teddy, like, it's running its course. I don't know. I don't know what your thoughts are on that anyway, but my question is, he said Shakur was boring, and it just dismissed his performance and just kind of moved on. Did he watch the fight, Calix? Do you think you watched it?
I don't. And I don't because specifically it was on ESPN. And I think that's when a lot of this started, is he got asked by ESPN. Mark Kriegel, who he doesn't like, was put in his place. And I think that's where a lot of this started. It's very cringe. And on top of that, he doesn't put things into proper perspective, particularly now. You know, he always had some trouble with that, but particularly now. And it just goes to show you once again that just because a guy was a trainer or a boxer, a lot of those guys may not be able to look at things and put them into as good a perspective as some boxing fans. But Teddy, this specific example, he says that, you know, he not only said that Shakur is boring, which that's subjective. That's fine. Okay. He's not everybody's cup of tea, but he said that he handpicks opponents. It's like, wait a second. Camboso's turned down the fight. Isak Cruz turned down the fight. Williams Zepeda turned down the fight. Who do you want him to fight? Like, do you want him to just sit on the shelf until somebody comes to the table? Or do you want to
let's be honest.
The next top guy in the rankings, which was Yoshino.
And really quick, this is where perception matters. Like, boxing has this perception that they throw in these guys with bums. And UFC has a perception that everyone's a tough fight. That's not true. Like, they put Conor McGregor in with Cowboy Cerrone, who was like 0-5, going like in the last 6. You know what I mean? So
how many shots are you going to give Colby Covington, right?
Yeah. Like guys in MMA beat guys at that level all the time, and Teddy calls it like Jersey Joe Wildcat level. Like, you know what I mean? But my point is, like, this is where perception matters, and like, I get it's a cool thing, but Calix, even like the MMA fans are like tired of Teddy. Like, come on, Teddy. Like, you know, like, are you serious, Teddy? Like stop being a drifter, Teddy. You know, I read that one the other day. Stop being a drifter. Like, because you're just telling us what we want to hear at this point. Like, you're not like, it's a little over the top. You know, like, you know, it's like calling every girl the most prettiest girl in the world. Like, if you keep doing it, and word gets around, this girl's going to be like, oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm just like the other 27 girls. But
yeah, like you called us all the most beautiful girl in the world. So I don't know, like, what the fuck's going on right now. Teddy, he's all in with the UFC, huh? He's all in. But what's funny is that he doesn't know anything about UFC. He just sounds ignorant as fuck when he talks about it.
He doesn't.
He said the front kick is a jab. They're jabbing. Look, it's like a jab. But like,
it's like Sergio Mora calling a hook a check hook, like every single hook.
Oh
like,
my God.
Bro,
my God. I'm glad you reminded me of that. He's abandoned the check hook. Have you noticed that? I think someone on the top with him, they're like, stop saying that, right?
It's not a check hook anymore. It's not. It's just not a check hook.
But here's the thing. I remember when a dude landed a hook and Mora goes, You see how he landed that hook? He put him on check. And that's like the check hook. Like, no, that's not what it means. But I don't know if you noticed. Have you noticed the obsession with the body shots? The body, you gotta go to the body. I don't know why he's not going to the body. If you go to the body, he'll end the next round. Body. Like
that's the new. He needs to stay off the line, right? He needs to stay off the line. The line. He needs to stay off the line.
The body thing, like, of course you want to go to the body more, but if they're not going, like Ford was like dominating. He was dominating Jesse Magdaleno. I don't know if we saw that fight. And then he's scolding the guy because he's not going to the body enough. And it's like, well, he's winning the fight. If you go downstairs, you're opening yourself upstairs. You're like, if you don't need to go there, there's no real need to go there, right? I don't know. That's his new thing. Body. But the check hook thing is hilarious.
You know what? I wanted to say this real quick though on Shakur. And because I don't think too many people are paying attention to this, is you're starting to see a picture of a dominant fighter, and a dominant fighter who, although he isn't the most entertaining, the crowd is growing around him, right? Like when you see 2 straight events where they're putting it where it belongs, and then on top of that, the ESPN ratings were 850,000. So that's very good compared to, say, a Showtime event. It's like 8 times the audience of a Showtime event these days. 850. For today's boxing.
Why does Canelo need to sign with ESPN again? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Good. Going back to Canelo, I mean, he can do whatever he wants. But with Shakur, if you look at his CompuBox stats, DStyle, and this matters when, like, I understand CompuBox can be flawed, and in particular, it can be flawed when you're comparing to peers, right? Because some fighters fight tougher competition than others, right? So it could be flawed. But when you see a picture develop amongst guys who fight tough competition consistently, now we're in a territory where he's fought Valdez, Herring, Consacao, Yoshino. Despite what we think about Yoshino, still good opposition. He's now, his plus minus is the best in the sport by far. And the plus minus is how many punches you're landing as opposed to how many are landing on you per round. He's landing over 20 punches more per round than his opponents. And he's first in the sport by far in that. And he's number 2 defensively in the sport. Him and Bivol are in a league of their own. Everybody else is well behind them. He's at around 13%, something like, or 13 punches landed per round against him, or 13% of punches land against him. So you're starting to see a picture develop in which Shakur is becoming a dominant fighter and a more entertaining fighter. And that's the story of Shakur. Is good luck with these guys having to deal with him. I mean, good luck.
A shout out to Drew. Teddy is a hack, but MMA is not the new kid, DStyle. It's a conglomerate that's a public company now, and in America, boxing won't ever get that spot back. You're probably right, but I just think like most sports are going to be niches now, and boxing is where it's at. Boxing can still thrive and do what it needs to do. Whether or not it's bigger than MMA, it's a different discussion. You know what I mean? But I don't need boxing. I don't know about you guys. It doesn't need to be more popular than MMA for me to enjoy it. Like, I just need to see consistent action. I just need to see the best fight the best. And if it becomes kind of like baseball, it kind of got overcome by football, but baseball fans still enjoy baseball, right? It could be something like that. But I understand your point, though, but we'll see where it goes. You know what I mean? We're gonna see where MMA goes from here. One last topic, Calix. I don't know if you know the exact number, but Jamal is approaching 700 days, right? I saw the wrestling fans talk about Roman Reigns being champion for 1,000 days, and they think that's impressive, right? Try being a champion for almost 700 days without a defense.
That's more impressive.
Like. This is a factual statement. Facts. FAX. Jermall Charlo has not lost a round in over 650 days. What's up with? Can you dispute that fact?
I can't.
Facts. Can you dispute it?
I can't.
Has Jermall Charlo? You think your boxer's impressive? Jermall Charlo hasn't taken a punch. He hasn't got a hit in any round in over 600 days.
That's more impressive. All right, I got the official number, 662 days.
Oh, my God. God. Damn. They haven't even. What do you make of Suleiman? Say, hey, he's got some personal issues. Like, hey, I'm going to, like, not show up to my job for over 600 days and, like, just tell my boss, hey, I got some issues.
So absurd. It's
like,
so absurd.
Oh, okay.
So,
also, everybody, like, I like your tweet, by the way. Also, nobody else has issues. Like, just Jermall.
It's like he's the only guy with issues, right? Is nobody else has any issues going on in the race?
I mean, that's almost like a reason to strip, by the way, right? Like, take care of your issues. Like, boxing doesn't stop or shouldn't.
So you have a guy, and I had somebody tell me earlier on Twitter, the division's bad anyway, so might as well let him. No. That's more reason to strip him, is give somebody else a shot to heat this division up. So if I'm Adames sitting there with an interim belt, paying sanctioning fees, knowing that I'm not going to get a shot at this belt because this dude who has personal issues is able to hoard the belt at the top and not even doing anything. Okay, if I'm Carlos Adames, I'm sitting there like, what the hell are we doing here? Like, my advisor who advises me is probably paying somebody under the table. So this guy who is advised by the same advisor is able to keep the belt. So my advisor, while working for me, is also working against me by making sure the guy above me gets to keep the belt without giving me a shot at the belt.
But Calix, he's got issues, bro. Okay? He's got issues. So he gets to keep the belt. So, like, I would love to ask Mauricio, so for how long does issues let you keep the belt? Because now you set a precedent, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now a fighter could just be like, well, I ain't going to fight. And when 100 days approaches, he could just say, hey, I got issues. I got shit going on with the wife. You know what I mean? I'm 200 days. I'm depressed. Hey, I'm depressed. What are you gonna do? It is what it is. You gotta let me keep the belt. You know what I mean?
And what happened with Golovkin is what's supposed to happen. It's like, look, knock. You haven't fought at middleweight in how long since the Murata fight is coming up on a year. You know, we gave you the exemption to go fight Canelo. That's fine. That's understandable. What are you going to do? 100%. We're going to give you 15 days to work with this guy, or we're going to strip you. And he says, take the belt. And then the other sanctioning body comes around and says, we're going to give you 15 days, or we're going to strip you. And he says, take the belt. That's what should happen, because it's movement. And I respect Golovkin for saying, look, I'm not going to hold up your time. Take the belts. Take them. I don't know if I'm going to fight again. Just take the belts, whatever. With the WBC letting this dude hoard a belt, just like they let Leo Santa Cruz hoard that belt at 126, and he hadn't fought at 126 in 3 years.
This is like unbelievable.
It's like when they let Tyson Fury retire and they keep the belt. Just keep the belt. It's like, no, bro, like, you can't let the dude retire for 1 second. Like, don't let him retire for one. As soon as he retires, no, we take the belt back.
You retired.
You retire for 1 second. It's no, we're gonna let him, decide if he wants to do it, because maybe he's having.
Let him think about it. You know what I mean? You know, imagine you could do that with a girl. Like, just be like, hey, I want to break up, but I want you to give me a grace period and say, in case I change my mind. That'd be nice. Give me like a 2-week grace period. And if I change my mind, you got to totally like pretend I never broke up with you. Like, just go with it. Like you can't do that. You know, who does that? Like, I'm gonna retire, but all right. And it was worse than 2 weeks. Didn't they give him like 4 months or something like that? Like, we're giving like 4 months to think about it, champ. Don't make it. You know, why don't you keep the belt? Gonna give you 4 months. You let us know. I want to do that shit. Hey, yo, hey, girl, I think we're done. But I want you to stay loyal to me. I'm going to totally like go do what I want to do, but I want a 4-month grace period in case I change my mind. Just in case. You know what I mean? Like, no, never mind. I'm going to stay with you. Like, nah, bro. It's over. Like you don't get like what's with these grace periods?
For
like,
1 second, you retire for 1 second, you make that official announcement. It's done. Like it's done. Give me the belt back. But they're letting this dude sit on the belt for 662 days, and it's not that he hasn't fought. He's got nothing announced either.
Can you imagine telling your job, I quit, I'm done, but I want a 2-week grace period in case, not a 2 weeks notice, a 2-week grace period in case I change my mind. You can't hire nobody else. I know it's important for the business, but if I change my mind, I want to come back and keep my position. Nah, bro. Like if you retire, you retire. Okay. If you retire, you retire. You retire. All right. Point blank. Period. I don't know. It is what it is. 700. Does he reach 700 days before they announce a fight?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Will he fight in over under 800 days?
Oh, I'm gonna say under. I'm gonna say under because that would put us.
Okay.
That would put us. No, I don't know. That's gonna be tough. That's gonna be tough. That would put us in about September-ish. So you know what? I'm gonna go over.
And then when I pointed that out, I said, "Oh, Roman Reigns, he's been champion for 930 or whatever it was, right?" Mm-hmm. Oh, but DStyle, that's fake. Well, Jamal is real. It ain't real because he ain't fighting. Like what Roman Reigns is more real. Like what Jamal's doing.
Imagine paying sanctioning fees for like one of these Reggie belts, thinking that you're going to get a shot at the real belt. Like imagine wasting that money, and then imagine being in the rankings underneath them and saying, "Hey, I got personal issues too, you know, and this dude's out there holding up the division because he's got personal issues."
Let me ask you a question. I wonder what the chat thinks. Whose title reign is more real? Roman Reigns, a WWE performer? Or Jamal Charlo for the last 650 days? Whose title reign is more real?
Roman Reigns, because he's actually out there like actively faking it. But DStyle, like I'm looking at this run at middleweight. Good
it's
Lord.
Not a run.
Montiel, he didn't look good. I mean, I give him Derevchenko, but Dennis Hogan, Brandon Adams. I watched the Brandon Adams fight. He didn't look that great against Brandon Adams, Korobov, Centeno Jr. I mean, is there a more overvalued fighter in the sport of boxing?
Bro, it's a retired fighter, bro. You might as well be retired, bro.
He's a retired fighter. Then you're going to have dudes saying, well, maybe he should be in the Hall of Fame. It's like, no, I know those people exist. I know it.
Who, Jamal? He's a 2-division champion. He defended it.
2-division champion, middleweight champion. He held because they do that thing too. They say he held the belt for how many years? They do that with Tyson Fury. There's still dudes out there claiming that Tyson Fury has been lineal champion for what, 8 years?
Hey, so I'm going to turn this into a short, by the way. So I want to ask you one more time, Calix, okay? Because I know you're not a wrestling fan. I know you're not. So whose title reign is more real? Roman Reigns over 900 days or Jamal Charlo over almost 700 days? What's title reign is more real to you?
Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns. Because he actually has to go out there in the ring and fake it. He has to follow a script, right? And this guy is sitting there at home with that trophy in his trophy case, and he's not doing anything to defend it, and he's able to keep it because of mental health or whatever. And you've got mentally unhealthy fighters up and down the rankings, I'm sure. They got excuses too. They still got to show up. The sad part about that, though, is, you know, I'm on here politicking for Adames, and he's not exactly doing much to push the issue, right? So he's not out there complaining about it. And on top of that, he's not fighting much. So you got fighters up and down the rankings just not doing much at all. It's just a sad state. It's a sad state when you got the top 10 pound for pound fighters. We're at April 11th, and the top 10 pound for pound fighters, none of them have fought yet this calendar year. Sad. That's where we're at. For sure.
Hey, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I hope I'm off the next few days, so we want to do an HCPX, and we're available. We could always do that during the week to dive more into everything going on. We got some stuff going on. Of course, Roundtable, Ringside Reporter this week. Make sure you guys tune in. Any final thoughts, Calix?
No. I mean, this was a fun weekend of boxing. There were some sad things as well, but this is what happens when you take fights off of paper and put them into reality as you get upsets. We found out things. We found out Fundora, still a fun fighter, but his ceiling much lower. We also found out that MJ Akhmadaliev ain't that dude. You know what else is sad is Stephen Fulton Jr. is probably watching that fight, and he's watching Tapales beat Akhmadaliev, and he's like, I could be undisputed champion right now. That's what's sad about this. And you could have undisputed at 122 early next year, late this year, between two Asian fighters, Inoue and Tapales, because Stephen Fulton Jr., his team didn't allow him to get the Akhmadaliev fight. That's sad.
I didn't see that Akhmadaliev fight loss happening. I just didn't. But hey, that's why we watch boxing. It's a theater of the unexpected. This is DStyle Boxing. Have a good one, guys. We're out. Peace.
With his trainer, Eddie Reynoso, wearing black with white, also weighing in at 167.6 pounds. In his professional career, 54 victories, including 36 big wins by knockout, only one defeat with 2 draws, and he's undefeated for 6 years, and considered by many to be, pound for pound, the best in the world. He's the former 2-time light middleweight world champion, former middleweight world champion, former light heavyweight world champion, the reigning, defending super middleweight champion of the world, damas y caballeros de Guadalajara, Jalisco, México, representando al gran campeón, Saúl Canelo.
11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. What a fight! I think we're going to win it. Juan, the Hispanic causing panic, Lascano.
You're now listening to Hispanics Causing Panic, baby.